How's it going, Sean?
It's doing good. Love these late night power sessions.
This is one of those, like, I kept trying to fit it. Well, since the last meeting in Miami,
Yeah.
kept trying to squeeze it in somewhere, and it was just like this thing came up, that thing come up. I've
Oh no,
gone
I
through
I
through
I
two gateways
appreciate
with
it.
it.
I appreciate it. I'm just a morning person, so I'm waiting
Oh,
for those 8 o'clock in the morning training sessions as
Yeah,
opposed to
I'm
the
fine
tail
with
end.
those bills. I don't think we'll ever get Bill on board with
Oh
those,
no, never, Bill.
but I'm up at like 5 every day. So,
Yeah.
well, he's up. He's just on Facebook. So I'll give everyone a few minutes and then we'll hop in. This is being recorded anyway, so it'll for everyone else that's a slacker doesn't want to hang out late tonight, then get caught up a little bit later. But this is gonna be when I said deep, I meant deep. I have no idea how long this will go. I know what I want to cover. And so if you are like, hey, it's past my bedtime, like if Kim's on the West Coast, you get a little break on that. But if on the East Coast, you've it's a little bit later for y'all. But if at any point in time you're like, this isn't clear, or could you go into that or slow down a little bit? Let's talk about that a little more. Let me know. Because this is for you guys. Facebook is one of those weird, they constantly change things, which makes it super, super difficult to train on it, because I could record this today and there's a chance that I will log into the platform tomorrow and it will look different. And that's just the way that Facebook does stuff. There's also a chance that the way mine looks is completely different from the way yours looks, because that's also how Facebook does stuff. They roll things out randomly to users. I even think it's by ad spend. I think it's honestly just by, they're like, whatever, this group gets it and this group gets it and this group gets it later. So there'll be days even where Bill's and mine, even though we have the same exact accounts in ours, our ads managers will look completely different. So, but I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna try and use things like by their name or kind of by their icon, because that usually doesn't change. It's just where it is constantly changes. But we're gonna get in. I'll do some screen share. I do a lot of screen share, and then questions along the way. Raise the hands. I keep that screen up on my screen, and then we can go from there. So basically, what really are Facebook ads for anyone who is like, how they work, what goes into it. So basically, there's two ways that Facebook ads work. One is interest-based, meaning Facebook learns by everything we do. What we like, what we dislike, what we say. I'm pretty sure what we say in private conversations, I think it's scanning that. What we view, how long we view it, how long we interact with things, it's learning all this information about us. So whenever we feel like, man, how does Facebook know? How do I keep getting ads when I'm looking for a particular product or thinking of doing a certain thing? Well, it's a combination of, it actually probably can track you wherever you're going to visit those products. So if you visit enough brands or products that have a similar type, it kind of learns and you get other ads that are similar to those brands. But also we has an incredible algorithm. So just based on kind of how you do things, some interests that you're doing, some common patterns, it sees those patterns that have happened to other people. And that's how it's able to then suddenly show you an ad. So it's super, super creepy. But the cool thing is we get to be the people that use the power of that. It's not just all the big advertisers out there. So that's the main ways that it works. You have interest, and then it tracks you wherever you go, and that's kind of how you can do it. It is an auction, which means that you bid against other people. So I always tell people that the worst times to advertise are the past month, basically, the Thanksgiving leading into Christmas, and then like Valentine's Day, and whenever there's any of those big major holidays that are a lot of shopping, are typically the worst times to also advertise on Facebook, because that's where you're competing against everyone else who's spending money. Basically, the way you want to think of it is that Facebook sees all the possible places you can put an ad is what they call inventory. So there's only so much inventory that exists, and you're going to pay a premium to be able to be shown in more places. That's why Facebook constantly comes up with new places to show ads, and you start to see that there's random new ways you see ads, because they're trying to find other ways to get the inventory so that more ads can be spent. But even with it being an auction, there's a lot of history that goes into it. So we've had, I don't know, millions of dollars of ad spend across all of our accounts for however many years we've had accounts. And so our account history helps us when it comes to if we have a dispute or need to speak to Facebook about something, or have any issues, or even just how our ads perform or who they get seen by, because there's a history of us as an advertiser for a long period of time. What I see a lot, the first time you create an account and that first ad you run will be the worst ad you ever run, because Facebook is learning you as a person. They're wanting to learn, do people interact with your content? How do they interact with it? Do you pay on time? How do you word things when you say things in your ads? Are you going to continue to spend more ads with them? In which case, obviously, they show things more. And so there's a lot that goes into that that we don't know about. That's the like auction algorithm side on the advertiser side. That is such a huge part of how things perform, or even what you get access to. So prime example, there's like some limitations. I'll get into like kind of the setup, the technical side of how things are set up, but there's some limitations when we first start. So you're only able to make so many ad accounts until you spend money, then you can make more ad accounts. There's limitations on if you can access support or not. I'm not sure where that barrier is as far as spending, but I could send you guys to the like Facebook business support page, and you'll see a completely different page than I will see, just because of that's how they do things. Some of you will thankfully be able to see and be able to chat with someone. Others won't. You just won't even see that option in there. So there's a lot of that account history stuff that plays into kind of not just how your ads run, but also what you get access to, what features you can see as Facebook rolls stuff out, or even does support for things. I have in my entire life chatted on the phone one time with Facebook support, and that was literally because we were chatting in the chat for like 45 minutes, and they're eventually like, you know what? Why don't I just call you? I'm like, yes, please. Can we just talk on the phone? This will be so much faster. We can just talk instead of having to chat out everything. But it usually takes a lot of ad spend to get to that place where you can actually get the conversations and get through all that stuff. But talk about the setup real quick about kind of how things work on the Facebook side to make sure things are set up properly. So I'm gonna share my screen and make sure it's the right desktop. That's the one. So there's layers to a Facebook account. So there's you as an individual. You have a Facebook. Let me actually just go to mine real quick. You have Facebook. Inside of it, you have all the groups and pages and personal stuff. That's one side of Facebook. The other side of Facebook is all the business account side. Now, as an individual, I can advertise on Facebook. I can boost posts. I can have pages. I can run ads, all that stuff. But it's all tied to me as the individual. Once I create a business account, then everything is under that business account. The reason that's important is, one, if anything crazy happens, which sometimes happens on Facebook, you never know what could happen, cart decline, which causes ad spend not to happen, and Facebook blocks your account. I'd rather that be an ad account I can then create more of than my personal Facebook that I'm kind of locked out of, and then I have issues later on trying to get things fixed. So the parent umbrella is a business Facebook account. So for us, that's Inbound Marketing Agents, because it was created before we did Build SDR Wealth and way before we did all this other stuff. In it, you'll see all of our businesses and all the businesses we have access to that we've done advertising for. So Women University, Build Faith as a personal brand, Build SDR Wealth, the SDR Wealth Conference, a whole bunch of transportation companies that we've done business for, and Gretsch Motors and a bunch of other stuff. So the business manager is kind of the umbrella. It holds everything. It's a holder for all the stuff. Under it, you can make as many pages, Instagram accounts, and eventually ad accounts once you get to a certain spend as you want. In the beginning, you can make as many pages as you want and everything else except for ad accounts. They limit you to 3 typically when you first start, and sometimes even 1, depending on how new your account is or if you have any kind of history with that. The reason you make the business manager is because it gives you a bunch of options. So this is the new, if you go to business.facebook.com, which is kind of the home base, this is what it looks like now. It's completely changed. It used to give you like, which business are you getting into and what other options? And now it just gives me this page. So I always remember the hamburger, the 3 lines, gets me to the all tools. And all tools gets me to the ads manager, which is kind of the home base I think of for everything, because it kind of puts everything back where it should be and gives you better access. So when I do that, I can then click in the hamburger again and actually get to my business settings over here. So I can kind of show you a little bit of why. So one of the big reasons you create a business account is then I can give people access. So whether it's me as an individual, or if I need to let someone else have access to my account, instead of them logging in as me as an individual, I can just grant Bill, for example, access to certain assets or certain pages or certain information. Can they spend? Can they not spend? Can they just post? What can they do? And this works for pages as well. So I could give certain individuals like Bill Faith, both Bill and I have access to his page. This is all done through the business manager instead of done through the page. So if I ever need to, I could boom, click, Bill's gone, and now I have access to the page. Obviously, this is just another layer of protection. So if you ever hire someone, you get a virtual assistant, especially, you want to have those layers of protection so they're not actually logging in as you. But the business manager holds all your pages, all your ad accounts. You have Instagram accounts, it holds them too. And that way everything links together. So you can, when you can advertise properly. So when you actually make an ad, it is as my page and as my Instagram and not just as making it up along the way. You also here, you control how the payment methods work. Your pixels are under data sources. So everything kind of lives in the business manager.
So Chris, quick
yes.
question on this. Like if by chance, like right now you have a lot of dispersed accounts that aren't under like an account like this, is there a way to pull them in underneath the business account to clean it up?
Yes. And so basically have to do it a piece at a time. So for pages, you have to like unassign it. So I would remove it and then you can add it to the other one. Ad accounts sadly can't be moved. Then once you're created in one, they're stuck in that one. You have to create a new one in the other one and just name it and then just start running ads in the new one as opposed to running ads in the old one. It's just the way those work. For everything else, the Instagram accounts and pixels, technically you can't move, but I could assign it to that other business entity, and then that business entity would then have access to the pixel I already created before. So there's a certain amount you can clean up, but it's one of those, like, it's easy, like most things in life. If you knew when you started, it would be much easier, but most people have already made a mess of it. From what I've seen from like seeing in a bunch of people's ads, that they have like, as they were creating different properties, they actually created different business managers for each property. And then, then they have an absolute mess of everything spread out. For me, because of between the businesses I'm a part of and businesses I own, I can't create another business manager. Facebook literally won't let me. And so I kind of have to consolidate and just make things inside of other things. The good news is that pretty much what's inside a business manager, you have control over. And so when it comes to like ad spend or what cards get used in certain places, like once you have a business manager set up, you can assign that super easily to everything. So everything kind of stays straight. But a lot of people separate out like different businesses to different business managers. You really don't need to. You can have one business manager and then have every business, every side business, all of them under the one business manager. And that way you have control over everything in one spot instead of having to hop back and forth. There's no advantage to having like multiple business managers for different. Like some people do it like, okay, SDRs have a business manager and then their other business has a business manager and this other thing has a business. You don't need to separate them. You can keep them all together. There's no like benefit from separating them out. That's kind of the basics of the business manager. For pages, really the most we're using a page for is for the point of advertising. So we don't do really any organic social media to a page. We don't do anything like that. We have posts on a page for the purpose of it not looking like it's just an abandoned random page. But you can either add a page in by adding a page. So if you already own the page, you can pop it in here. Or if you haven't created a page yet, you can create a brand new page from scratch. A lot of times people have issues that they create a page and then they never post anything to it. You definitely want to have some type of content on a page if you're not regularly posting to it, just so that it doesn't look like if someone does click on the ad and go to the page, It isn't completely blank. It's like not missing a profile picture or not missing a cover photo. You just complete the page and assign it to it. And the same thing for Instagram accounts. Even if you don't use it on a regular basis, create an Instagram account, link it to it, make sure there's a couple photos on there, and that way it's at least a real profile that people can use if they decide to reach out and click through an ad to actually see it. The ad accounts, in the long term, you would want to have an ad account for every credit card. That's basically the way I think of it. So if you need to have a different credit card for each individual house, then you would want to have an ad account for each individual house. Like I said, there's some limitations when you start about number of ad accounts you can create. I don't have the limitation, so I can make as many stupid ad accounts as I want, and I've done enough for demos now where I'm surprised Facebook hasn't flagged me for how many ad accounts I've created for different things. But you may have to start with one ad account and one credit card, and then as you get some ad spend under it, they will allow you to then separate it out and separate it out. So just kind of quick reminder of that. And then the pixels live in here. So I'll do a quick, like, what the heck is a pixel? You hear Bill and I talk about it all the time. Basically, the pixel is a little piece of code that exists on your websites you own. And then what Facebook is able to do is you log into Facebook on a computer or mobile device, whatever, and then you leave that and then go to a website later. And so say I go to buildstwealth.com. Then I have the pixel installed on buildstwealth.com. So what Facebook does is it knows that my user that was on Facebook visited this website, specifically this page of this website. It also knows how long I spent on it, all that other information. I, as the advertiser, know none of that information. I'm just allowed to, through the pixel and through custom audiences, to create a group of people based on criteria. So I'll go into this much later once we get past like the creative and buyer personas and actually get into like retargeting. That's what this is. And basically I'm saying, hey, Facebook, I would like to advertise to the people who visited this page. And Facebook's like, cool, I know those people because I have a pixel, and that's how I connect them. Now, what you'll probably hear a lot is that iOS at their last software update now asks you when you open an app, do you want to allow this app to track you wherever you go? And for weird people like me, I say yes, because I want to be able to see ads and I want to be able to see the things because, and Bill, I think half of the stuff he buys is from an Instagram ad at this point. But a lot of people have opted out. And so that's where some of the effectiveness of this style of tracking has gone down significantly recently. But if you do it, you'll see an ad. So like if you go to buildstwealth.com, next time you're on Instagram or Facebook, you'll see an ad to the Facebook group. If you go to, I was actually on Kenny's site earlier, if you go to STRinsights.com, then he does the same thing. He does retargeting. You'll get an ad for STR Insights sometime later if you have all the tracking turned on. So that's kind of where the pixel is. The thing about the pixel, I see a lot of people, there's like, once you get into some of the settings with the pixel, that it will yell at you sometimes of, let me go to a Bill STR Wealth. Where you at? There you are. I'm going to open the events manager. It kind of gives me all the information about the pixel, not just the pixel itself. So a lot of times you get some errors in here that are like, you have to verify the domain and you need to see what it's throwing me. You have new domains that are sending data. You need to make sure that you verify everything, all this stuff. And so basically the way I use the pixel is I created a pixel for Build STR Wealth. That pixel is everywhere I can put it. And so you kind of saw an example when I had the websites. So it's in, like if you guys go to Kajabi, the back platform of Wealth Education, it's there, it's on our site, it's on Host Academy, it's on our ClickFunnels, it's on STRnomics and STR Unfiltered. It's on the Kiva pages, it's on the Dragonfly pages, it's on STR WealthCon pages. It is anywhere I could possibly put it. I have put the pixel because I want it to collect data. Even if I'm not using it right now, I just want it to collect all this data. I want it to let it get as much as possible. Because later, when I show you guys how to make custom audiences, I can go in and tell Facebook, I want the pixel information from this page. Like I can do as specific as a specific page or a full website or everywhere, anywhere, I can do that as well. but it starts with having the pixel created, which is kind of back here. I can actually, I think it's actually here in the data sources. You actually get into you can create a pixel, and then you can go to what you want it to do. This one hasn't been set up, so we're gonna get out of that one. But it's just a piece of code. You actually have, I do build STR well tracking. See if it's, nope. I have a doc in my Google Docs that has all of the tracking codes in one spot. That way, if I need to go back, if I have the LinkedIn tracking code and it and my Google Analytics and whatever else I need to have set up, I put all that in one doc. That's the tracking information. And then that way I have one place I go to whenever I set up a new page, set up a new landing page, set up anything, just copy and paste it over. And that way it starts, I know it's tracking everything from there.
Hey,
So
Chris,
that, yes,
I got a question.
absolutely.
Conversion API, pixel or metapixel?
I would do the metapixel. So ideally, you would want, so Facebook is built for e-commerce, right? That's basically the idea of it. So on the e-commerce side, the goal would be to, I ran an ad. I can stop sharing for a second because we're going to chat about buyer personas. I ran an ad, and then someone saw the ad. They went to the product page, added it to cart, made a purchase. I made money, right? So ideally, you would be able to say through that whole process, what ad that came from, how much money they spent with you. So then you would know for return on ad spend, if I spent $100 on the ad and I had $1,000 worth of purchases, then I'm doing really, really good. I should put more money into the ad than I should get, in theory, more money for purchases, right? That's where the conversion tracking, that's where that's a lot of stuff is the goal of that is. But the only system that is supposed to, and I haven't actually seen it work yet, is OwnerRez. So you can put a pixel into OwnerRez, and then OwnerRez should be able to, well, Facebook should be able to tell you when OwnerRez, someone makes a quote, when someone actually purchases, and then that would track back to an ad. The second thing about OwnerRez that someone working on them with is there's only one pixel. You're allowed to put one pixel in per OwnerRez account. So if I go to like analytics and tracking in our OwnerRez, whoops, I'm not sharing my screen anymore. Share it again. Go back again. So in our OwnerRez, if I go to analytics and tracking, here I can put in Google Analytics code. I can enable the Google Analytics debugging. I can put in a Facebook pixel. I get one for my entire OwnerRez account. So that's also part of the reason why I don't have 19 different pixels for each property or anything like that, because OwnerRez doesn't let me have a pixel per individual property. I get one pixel for everything. And so that's kind of the sucky side about that. When you make a new pixel, and I can actually go through since we're kind of talking about it. Let me get back to the business settings, the ads manager first. Business settings, data sources, pixels, add a pixel. So if I add a pixel, then as I go through the process, they'll say, hey, do you want to set the pixel later? Do I actually want to do it now? I can set it up now. That gives me three options. I can add codes using the integration. So if you had Shopify or WordPress, for example, a WordPress site, you can do it this way. I usually do this method to manually add the code. So it'll give me just the code. This is part I copy and then I would paste it. If I was doing landing pages, I can touch on lead pages where that code goes. It goes in the head section, or for things like OwnerRez, it actually wants the number, this ID number. That's right here. It's kind of hard to see. It's in blue. But it's also the ID number of, yeah, it's fine. It's also this ID number right here. And that's what OwnerRez uses for it. And see the difference because this pixel has no activity. It's red, but if I go to like build STRWell one, it'll be green because it's actually received information from the pixel. So it knows it's fully connected on both sides. So super technical side, right? But that's the setup we want to have to actually make it successful the rest of the way through. It doesn't matter if you know your buyer persona, you run ads, if your ad account gets shut down because something happened with your personal profile, then you get locked out of it, or if you have, issues with any of that, you really want to just kind of put the layers in place, set it up properly. That way it kind of sets you up to be successful for running ads into the future. Before you get into the running ads, which is kind of what we're getting next, talk a little bit about buyer persona. So I'm not sure if anyone was at the last boot camp, but I kind of dug heavy into it. I don't know if we really talked about it much in the mastermind, but basically for anything, any advertiser or any product, you think of an ideal buyer, a person that is the person you are creating this product for, or the person, in our case, that is staying at our property. This is what we call a buyer persona. A lot of people kind of think of it as demographics, like it's age, sex, location, but you really want to think of them as a person. So I give them a name. It might be Mother Mary. And actually, I might pull up my presentation from the last boot camp and kind of walk through, because I think I did a really good job of explaining it that way. Coasting, boom, marketing presentation. Yeah, there we go. Let's share the screen again. I love Canva. Okay, buyer persona. A buyer persona is a semi-fictional representation of your ideal customer based on market research and real data about your existing customers. So what do we mean by that? We mean real data, as in you've had previous people book with you for most cases, or you can kind of get an idea based on the area you're in or talking with other people around or other hosts in the area, the typical person that does the booking. Is it the mother? Is it the father? Is it the grandparents? Is it younger families, older families? And as your, of course, Bill's calling me right now. Decline, Bill. You get to wait till later. The semi-fictional part is the other aspects you want to think. So if you start to think about a mother, and I'll kind of get into the next slide here, it's more than just like name, age, gender, and demographics. It's actually the things that make them a person. So why do they choose your property over others? What features of your property stand out to them? How can they turn those features into attractive language for that particular buyer? What are they interested in? Are they coming there just to visit the property? Are they coming there for the beach? What about the beach interests them? Is it staying out in the sun? Is it playing in the water? Do they have a family? Are they married? Do they have young kids? Do they have older kids? Are they significantly older and they're coming down as snowbirds to beach markets? There's all these things you start to build out into a buyer. And so, for example, I have Snowbird Sally here, 60s, married, kids in their 30s, lives up north, interested in longer rentals with the conveniences of everything back at home. So she's really looking for that. I want to get out of the snow, want to stay away from all that, want to be at the beach, want to be in a comfortable place, but I'm also going to be interested in a longer term stay. I have Mother Maggie, she's in her 40s, married, school age kids, lives in a few state drive because she's driving down, not flying down, really values those family activities and making memories. It's really what she wants to do on a vacation. So the reason we talk about buyer personas is because when you shift from, and you can identify, this is the person that's staying at my property, you can then shift it into, okay, if this is the person I'm speaking to, if I saw Mother Maggie, we bumped into each other and I'm like, hey, I have this property. She's like, oh my gosh, tell me more about it. How would I speak to Mother Maggie versus how would I speak to Snowbird Sally when talking about the features and benefits and the highlights of the property or of the area? That's really the difference of having a buyer persona and advertising to a buyer persona versus just advertising. So a lot of times what happens, Bill and I were talking about this on a future episode of the STR Unfiltered podcast, that a lot of people just state facts because they're advertising to a specific person. So because of that, you're kind of saying everything to everyone. So usually instead of you getting super specific or super detailed, you end up being very vague. It's a house with this many bedrooms and this many bathrooms, and it has this many levels, and we have these things, and this is the area it's in, and this is the amenities it has. You're like very, very like vague. Instead of being able to get super specific by speaking to a person. So if I'm speaking to Mother Maggie, I may specifically highlight certain things I wouldn't highlight for Snowbird Sally, as far as games for the kids or other beach toys, activities, boogie boards, other things like that, that Mother Maggie would be super interested in, but Snowbird Sally wouldn't be. So by knowing the buyer persona, it changes how I advertise. It actually changes everything. So when you really think about it, knowing your buyer persona, it changes how you stock the property, how you are message them, what's the welcome gift, how you set up the welcome guide. If you have a lot of Snowbird Sallies, you might have a lot more videos in your welcome guide than if you had Mother Maggie, because obviously a lot of things might be a little more complicated, a little more difficult, especially when it comes to technology. The how the finishes in the property, that's kind of the start. And then you start to get into like the listing. What images do you choose, or what order? What kind of descriptions do you use? What is your kind of hook, your opening couple sentences in it? And so you kind of see how like just understanding who your buyer is kind of shifts all the aspects of it. But then especially when you come to advertising, because when I run an ad, I'm not just saying, hey, I'm gonna run an ad to all the 200 whatever million people that are in the United States. When I run an ad, I'm able to say, hey, I want to run an ad to females in their 40s that have kids of a certain age that live in certain states that have these specific interests that interest them. And that's how I start to narrow down my person. And that way my ad is shown to those people who are the buyer I'm speaking to. Because I'm speaking to that person, I'm able to write advertising that resonates with that person. So if I just left it wide open, you're gonna get everyone of all ages, everyone of all sexes, everyone from all over the country. But I'm trying to narrow things down to say, okay, I want the person who is already, I know is interested in this property. But I need to speak to them on their level, what they're interested in their language, which will then connect better with them, so convert better. So they'll see your ad, it'll stop them in their tracks, and they'll move to the actual like clicking through, whether it's to a landing page or to your direct booking site or to Airbnb, however you want to do it, or Vrbo. I'm going to leave Vrbo out of this, and they actually want to convert because you're speaking to them throughout the whole process. So it's a quick, dirty version of buyer personas and what they are. I could talk probably for an hour on buyer personas, but we ain't got time for that. So I'm gonna get back into Facebook. The Facebook, the way it structures a campaign. So if I go into my ads manager, again, the hamburger kind of gets me back to everything. If I go into my ads manager, one, I want to make sure I'm in the right ad account. As much as I want to be at the S Tier Wealth Conference, I'll go back to my Build S Tier Wealth one, because I have lots of stuff I play with in here. So when you have an ad, there's layers to it. So I think of it as files and like file folders and like a filing cabinet, right? So you have a drawer. I kind of think of those as a campaign because it holds everything, right? So a campaign has a goal, an objective. That's really all you'd say in a campaign. What do I want to happen with this campaign? Inside the campaign are what we call ad sets. Ad sets are like file folders in a filing cabinet, right? They hold individual ads, but they also group things together. So in an ad set, I get to tell it who is seeing the ad and then how much I'm spending. So campaign level, what's the objective? At the ad set level, who and how much am I spending? Then the ad level is what do they see? That's kind of the progress on the way down. So yes, you can run ads through, like you could post a post and boost it and that kind of stuff, but you lose all the kind of the detailed rich stuff that allows you to really advertise well on Facebook. So I'm going to create an ad, start at the very, very top. So this is a brand new campaign and it asked me what objective do I want to choose. And basically the two that are the best are awareness. And the goal of awareness basically is to get as many eyes as possible on the ad, and traffic. The goal of traffic is as many people as possible to click on your ad. There is a difference between the two. Awareness is I'm casting it as wide as possible. They may or may not click, but as many people as possible are going to see it. Traffic, stop it. Traffic is I want as many people as possible that see it to actually click and go to my destination, whether it's my direct booking site or my landing page or anything like that. And how does Facebook know? It knows because that's what we do. So I'm more in the traffic than awareness because I click on a lot of ads because I like to see kind of the funnel, what's behind it, and buy stupid stuff. But I also see a bunch of stuff. So it kind of knows your behaviors as a buyer. And that's how it kind of determines, oh, if you want traffic, I'm going to show this ad to more people who are more likely to click because they have a history of clicking versus awareness, which is I'm just going to show it as many people as humanly possible for the budget you give it. So we use traffic 99.9% of the time for ads. Engagement is you want people to get a certain number of video views or more page likes, or if you have an event, you can do that. We don't use it pretty much ever, but it is an option if that is something you're wanting to do. Leads is a special type of conversion. So you're trying to get them to either fill out a form, contact you on Messenger, or do a call. So it's a lot of times that businesses will use leads because obviously that's what your goal is, right? As a business, you want to get a lead to come in and you actually have a conversation with them. App promotion, you have an app, that makes sense. And sales, that's where you have people that actually have the full e-commerce thing. I would say I want people who are more likely to purchase. So you have enough purchases already for Facebook to learn, so I can create a campaign about purchases. But traffic, 99.9% of the time, we're using traffic. So gonna create it, hit the button, lots of random pop-ups because they're switching it to leads, don't care. I can choose up to 6 now. Thank you. I already saw that. So traffic, brand new campaign. First thing I'm gonna do in anything is name it. So that way I know what the heck I'm doing. A lot of times, as you see my kind of naming structure is I'll name it, even though this might be in the property's ad campaign, I want to name it based on what property it is, and then the reason for it. So you can kind of see my examples here. Spring break, summer bookings. That way I have an idea of what this campaign's about. Yes.
Hey, it's Emil. Hey, can I recommend to anyone in this call to actually do this along with you? Those of you that actually have this set up, try and do it as Chris is speaking. Just want to throw that out there because this is how I first started my first marketing campaign as Chris was talking in this video. And that's kind of how I learned myself. So if you have it set up, try and follow along with him with your own information. It'll help you if you can do both screens. I just want to throw that out there. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, no, that's great. And like I said, this is also recorded. So if you don't have everything
Right.
set up already, that's also great advice. Get it all set up, come back, pop it up. If you're a weirder like me that has 3 screens, you're in a really good world, but hopefully most people have 2 because 2 is the optimal way to get any kind of work done. 1 is just super, super annoying. I'm about to add a 4th, by the way, because I need more screen space. So name it, property, identifier, what your kind of goal of overall the campaign is. That way, if you're running multiples, if you're kind of multiple things going on, you can quickly identify what this campaign's all about. This one is the one that gets everyone tripped up, right? So 9 times out of 10, you're gonna run an ad, it's gonna get declined. They're gonna be like, you must be in this category, the housing category, right? And if you read through, what's it looking for? So it's basically trying to say, and the point of all these categories is that I can use the targeting information to discriminate. That's the point of the special ad category. So if I'm advertising for specific types of markets, then it will turn off targeting options to not allow me to discriminate for those types of ads. But for us, you are not any of these, even though housing seems like it would be the one, it's going to get rid of all of your targeting. So leave it as none. What will happen, your ad gets declined, you tell them to review it, they'll be like, oh yeah, because basically after COVID, it went from a huge team of people manually reviewing things to a huge artificial intelligence that just declines a whole bunch of crap. And then you can go back in and manually review it. And then you have a person that'll review it and take a look at it. But this goes back to the history, right? So I have a history of running a whole bunch of successful ads. So even if there's something questionable, there's a better chance of mine getting approved because I have that history of running ads versus someone who's brand new. You get a couple decline too fast. You start running too many ads too quickly and it decline like 3 or 4 in a row. Then you might get yourself in a place where they're like, hey, you've had a bunch of ads declined. We're going to close your account. You're going to be going to slow you down. We're going to keep you from making new ads. So just be careful in the beginning, especially that don't just go in here and make 15 different campaigns, they all get declined, and then you're like, well, they get shut down. Especially for that first one, if it gets declined, manually review it, then you can go through the process of letting them actually get it up and running.
Is there like, there's some email they send you that you request this, or?
So they'll send you an email that says, hey, this ad got disapproved. They'll tell you typically the reason. Sometimes the reason isn't super clear. And then it'll give you a link to allow you to submit a request to review it. If you have spent enough money, I can actually go into, and I can show you guys real quick. /support, I think. Find out in a second. Patient has been approved. Not what I was wanting. Why do they name it? Hang on one second. Facebook business support. There you go. Facebook.com/business/help. So if you're lucky enough, you'll be like, hey, I can contact support. And then it'll walk me through, oh, my ad was rejected. Then it'll tell me some steps, and then I can actually eventually get through and talk to a person, contact support, and then it would actually let me give, okay, it's this ad account, build us to your wealth. It was, come on, Facebook, keep up with me. My ad was disapproved. Now I can give information, why it happened, whatever. And then I'll basically either call, which is super new. I haven't seen that one before. Or they'll open a chat, and then it may just be after their hours. And that's why they're having it be that way for some reason. But then they'll have a chat. I'll open up just like a Facebook Messenger, and then you'll be able to have a conversation like, hey, this ad was disapproved. And they'll take a look at it, and they can tell you, oh, this is why. So there's certain things, if you use certain language, especially about people, and it should give you a reason, like either the special ads category or certain types of language or the content, whatever. And that way a person can actually tell you specifically, this is why that ad was disapproved. But hopefully you won't have to deal with that very much, and it should learn eventually, depending on how many ads you run, and kind of help you out. So for example, I think I've had an ad disapproved in a very long time. I'm going to say this, and then the next ad I'm going to run is going to be disapproved. But it eventually kind of learned, like I said, that account history of running successful ads, it kind of helps out a lot. A/B testing, never turn it on. Basically, it's designed to allow you to run two different types of images or text or whatever. There's other ways to do that later on, so I don't do that ever. Campaign budget basically says, hey, I'll spread the money however I want across the entire campaign. I always leave that off. I want to control where the money goes. That's really it. Name it. I already set the objective in the previous step, and then I'm going to go on to the ad set level. So top is just the objective. The second one is, who am I advertising to? So I'm going to do, what did I name her? Mother Maggie. So I'm actually going to name it Mother Maggie, and then summer bookings. So who I'm talking to, and then kind of, again, the names, I kind of follow it down if I had to get lost in the ads later. Gonna say, where are you sending people to? A website. What's the goal? Want as many people as possible to actually view the landing page. This button, you get, if you turn it on, kind of now is the time to turn it on. Basically, it allows you to upload multiple images, allows you to upload multiple pieces of text, allows you to upload multiple headlines, and then it will test the combinations of them. So in the true way of testing is I would have headline 1, image 1, body of text 1, headline 1, image 1, body of text 2. Now I'd run them side by side to the same landing page. And I would see after a period of time, because I'm not spending enough money, which one performed better. Okay, headline 1, image 1, text 2 performed better. Sweet. Then I'll create a new test. That's headline 1, image 2, text 2, headline 1, image 1, text 2. Let them run against each other. Oh, image 2 performed better. Okay, so I'm continually like iterating and doing testing. Problem is that's super complicated. It takes a lot of time, right? So Facebook, if I turn dynamic creative on, in the next step, I can actually upload multiple images, multiple pieces of text, multiple videos, and Facebook's going to create all the combinations, right? and it'll test very, very fast. It'll show that same type of combination of like headline one, image one, text one, headline one, image one, text two, headline one, image one, text three, whatever, how many options you have. And then it'll quickly realize, oh, okay, of the three, text one's performing better. Let's keep text one. Then it'll start to iterate the other options of like, okay, image one, image two, image three, headline one, headline two, headline three. Then I'll pick a winner of your combinations that you may not have thought of to begin with, but that's what through its quick testing, it kind of learns. So I like to turn dynamic creative on. But you can also, it just depends on how you want to do it. You could also just test the other way, or you could just test one kind of at a time. I turn on. The budget is a daily budget, however much you want to spend in a day. It kind of says, hey, you might spend a little more some days, but you'll spend an average $20 a day or $140 per calendar week. That's kind of how it thinks of it. So it gives enough money where if it has more traffic on certain days, it'll give more money to it. And if less traffic on other days, it'll spend less money, but it'll overall average to the number you set for it. Basically, you can go all the way down to $1. There we go. If you really want to, it's going to yell at you like, yeah, $1, really? But there are some times where we will run things for like $1 a day, $2 a day, $3 a day. Kind of start to give you numbers as we narrow down our audience of this is the number of people estimated. These are the estimated results based on the number. Once you run ads for a little bit, it'll actually show you a graph. I don't like graphics, I don't want to confuse anyone, but it'll show you a graph and I could actually see, okay, if I spend $2 more a day, I should be able to get this many more clicks or this many more, this much more reach. But for right now, you can spend as little as much as you want. The goal with this is to never decrease it. So if I'm going to start, I would rather start lower and then up it later than start higher and then decrease it because it's not getting the kind of traction I want. Because as soon as you decrease this money, you might as well create a brand new ad because Facebook's just going to stop showing it to people. So usually start lower, like $3 a day. In the end, the way I kind of think of this is if $3 a day without any targeting right now, I'm going to have somewhere between 500 people and 1.3 thousand people see my ad every single day. So with that number of people, and I have, I've been looking through Brian MacArthur's, he's been running ads for a little while, for a few months actually, kind of looking at through his analytics. We meet occasionally, and for how much he spent, I think at this point is $400 or $500, maybe a little more than that. But he's had almost 1,000 landing page clicks and almost 10,000 people view the ad itself. So when you think of like how little money you spend to get that many people to actually see things, it's really one of the least expensive ways to advertise. Now, a big thing to remember, I kind of talked a little bit about it earlier when like it's an auction, but people are just scrolling and that's kind of how they see things. You have to remember that even when, no matter how good your targeting is, no matter how much money you spend, in the end, people aren't going to Facebook to see your ad. They're going to Facebook to see photos and videos and things from their friends or make political posts, whatever you want to do on Facebook. I'm not judging. But that's the reason they're there, right? And so our ads are kind of in the way of that experience. And so there will be times where people will see your ads, go right past it. There'll be times when they might stop for a second and be like, oh, that's interesting. There'll be times that they might even click on it, but it's not the right time. They're at dinner, they're having a conversation, whatever. So it usually takes 7 times for an ad to be seen by someone before they truly recognize that they like, oh, I saw this ad or recognize the pattern of it. So that's why even for a few bucks a day, just being able to get as many people's eyes on it as possible. And then there's a number later called frequency, which how many times has any individual person seen an ad that you want to let it run and let it get high enough so that the same person has seen the ad multiple times so they can take action on it or recognize that's for the same property. But if you kind of go down, you'll see kind of the numbers across here adjust. So I'm going to put it at $5 a day, so it's just a little bit more. Then we can start to create our audience. So here's where we really start to narrow down who would I want to see this thing? And it starts with, later on, I'll show you guys custom audiences. Basically, a custom audience is me telling Facebook, this is the group of people, whether it's from a list, from a website, from a lookalike, that I want to see this ad. So I don't care about the rest of the targeting options. I just want the people I've decided to see it. As you go down, you can start to narrow things down. So right now it's the entirety of the United States. It's kind of shown here, location United States. I can narrow this down a couple different ways. So I could choose a specific state, right? So I want people from Tennessee see my ad. Boom, whole state of Tennessee. I could choose a market. So if I chose Nashville, for example, there's Nashville, the city, Nashville, Tennessee, and there's Nashville, the market, meaning the actual area that would be considered Nashville in the old traditional way of what is the market of a particular area. So if I did like New York, for example, I have New York, the state, I have New York, the market, and notice New York, the market is a whole heck of a lot more than New York. It's actually New York and New Jersey, a little bit of Connecticut and like the tri-state area, right? Because it's having what would be considered the market of it. I can do cities. I can also get super, super specific. And so there, I don't know necessarily why for what we do, you may want to do this, but here, let me go to see Savannah, why not? So I can drop a pin. So I'm going to drop a pin. I'm gonna drop it right here. I said right there. There we go. So by default, it's a 10-mile radius. So I can actually drop it down to a mile. If I say anyone within this blue area of the pin would see your ad. Anyone else outside of that wouldn't see the ad. And it gives me an idea. It's how many people, it's how much you would get, it's the number of people in that area. That's cool. The cool thing is that there's actually options. So by default, it's people living in or recently in this location. So it's just like their phone has traveled through this spot. That's how it knows where it is. But there's other options. So people living in this location. So it doesn't, like I wouldn't count because it knows where I am 90% of the time, which is in my apartment. People recently in this location, so people just travel through here, doesn't matter where they're originally from, or people traveling this location. So like it says here, their most recent location within the select area, but whose home is more than 125 miles away. And so depending why you're running your ads, you may want to select different ones. So if I'm running to like the Southeast, for example, I probably want people living in or recently in this location. But if I'm running an ad because I'm wanting people who have landed or are currently in that location that are travelers to be the ones to see my ad, then I would change it. And again, this goes back to buyer persona. So if I'm targeting someone who is preparing to vacation or wanting to vacation in the future, I want people living in or recently in, and I would just choose my states or leave it the whole country. I would probably choose my states because you should know where most people come from. But if I'm saying, you know what, I want to actually show this ad to people who are already in the market of my property, already in Gulf Shores, then I could actually pick Gulf Shores, Alabama, pick people traveling, which I can't believe it would be too many right now. Come on, thing. There we go. And there you go. And it'll tell me there's like, ain't nobody there right now because, you know, it's not that time of year. And again, I can make this bigger. I could increase all the way to 50 miles and kind of get a bigger audience. But that's kind of how the audience, the location targeting works. So typically we pick states. Bill's kind of mentioned before based on your bookings, you could, and your market, you can kind of pick. If you don't know as much, you could keep it wider. I'm actually going to go back to the full United States just to give me more numbers.
Hey, Chris, can I ask a question?
Yes.
So is there a way to target, or like, can we talk through an example of targeting maybe vacation goers in your market for your unique value proposition? So my example would be in PCB, I'm a similar size to most of the condos, but I'm one side of a duplex. I have a massive yard. Like, is there a way I could target, other than maybe geography, people who are staying in a condo and kind of target the opposite of my unique value proposition, right? Like tons of elevators, waiting for an elevator, packed beaches, blah, 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 things like that?
Yes and no. So the targeting is layered, meaning I kind of, as I'm adding more information, it's actually kind of narrowing down. It's actually about to do both. It's going to narrow down, it's going to expand back out. And I'll kind of show you what happens. But basically, like just geographic is my most number of people because that's the first layer of targeting. Then as I add interest, it'll actually shrink that down. Now, does it have an interest for condos? Not necessarily, but you can kind of either play with interest or just let it be, because you might be, as you kind of saw, like, Panama City Beach. So this right now, people living in, so let me switch this to people traveling in. The total number of people here is like 13,000. Wouldn't touch it and make it smaller than that. I would just let it be its thing. And then, because you're only gonna spend a couple bucks a day anyways, and you're gonna reach like virtually this entire audience. So if the entire audience is 13,000 people, and for $5 a day, I'm gonna reach 300 to 800 of them, that means that technically in like 15, 16 days, I should reach every single person that's in this area should have seen my ad at some point in time, right? And so for that particular example, I would let it be and not continue to narrow it down. And as I kind of get into some of the targeting, some of the options, like the amount of play you can have as far as what's interest and how you can narrow things down is there's a billion and trillion combinations. So some of this is just the testing of, okay, I might run an ad that's just Panama City and just and let it be just people who are traveling. I'm gonna run an ad to just Panama City, people are traveling, and add interest and kind of see how those two perform against each other. I might do one that's just Panama City, not people are traveling, just people are in it, and interest, and see what kind of difference that makes. I might try this interest versus these interests. And so like the amount of testing you can do is, it kind of gets overwhelming a bit when you start to think of like, I can test all the demographic stuff, the sex, age, location. I can test interest stuff. So one interest, multiple interests, and then narrow down by other interests. And then on top of all that, for any of those buyers or those people who might see it, I can test ad creative, text. Then on the other side of that, I can test landing page, website, directly to Airbnb or VRBO. So you think of like all the possible combinations of all the tests you can do. It's like virtually infinite. It's insane. So that's why when I tell people a lot when you get into this, that start with the lower budget because you're gonna want to do a lot of testing. And then you're just want to play. You're gonna want to see what's out there, see what responds well, run as many ads as you can, and then start to notice what's performing well about certain ones. Okay, these ones that were about these interests perform better than the ones about these interests. Well, let's make more ads about similar interests and kind of delve deeper into that and see if we can get more conversions that way. In the end, it's a long game. So
So
go ahead.
I was just gonna ask one other question
Sure.
of, I guess, kind of similar nature, but a lot of, I feel like, I mean, even into Alabama and that Florida coastline, you know, each little pocket is pretty different from each other. You know, Navarre is different from Destin, is different from 30A, is different from PCB. But if you had guessed that we're kind of maybe going between Destin and 30A, or PCB and 30A, or flying into PCB and then going to Port St. Joe, is the ad smart enough to, like, is Facebook smart enough to recognize that? Like, would it be possible, for example, for me to target someone in 30A versus, you know, someone who's staying in PCB but going over to 30A to have dinner or something like that?
It would not know, because it would know you're traveling or they're traveling.
Mhm.
It would know that their phone, which is normally not in that area, traveled through your area, but it wouldn't
Mhm.
necessarily know that they're staying over here versus over there.
Right.
But when you think of, it's also a time. So like, if I went to dinner and dinner conversation is really boring, I might pull my phone out, I might see your ad. But there's a higher chance of someone who's staying there through the course of a 24-hour day to see your ad. So you might get some people who get some crossover that aren't actually staying in a particular location, but the majority of the people you would get, because it's a 24-hour day, that they would have a higher probability of seeing the ad. And so it's like anything you do, you're gonna get the people that you don't want to see your ad. It's just the way it's gonna work. The goal is to try and minimize that as much as possible, but you will have some crossover, whether it's people in locations or people that live there that somehow see your ad anyways that necessarily aren't supposed to. Like, it's just there in the end, it's as good as Facebook's information is, and it's not perfect. But yes, it doesn't know, but it knows that that phone isn't normally there, and then it went through the window that is where your location is.
And sorry,
That makes
one
sense.
clarification, that totally
Yes.
makes sense. Would, like, is Facebook going to do it like, okay, Courtney flew into PCB, went over to 30A, that's in the target radius. But then I go back to PCB, let's say. If the ad is targeted to 30A, for example, would it only show me, Courtney, the ad when I was in 30A? Or when I'm back in PCB, because at some point in that day I was in 30A, it might still show the ad to me.
It would only show you when you're in the targeted window.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. So it would know you're traveling, it would know you went through the window, but it wouldn't then show you later after you've been through it. It would only show, it would pull like what's current. So as soon as you open Facebook, it's bouncing off and saying, okay, where am I? How's the auction? What's going on? And then it'll start to layer like, okay, based on me as Chris, what the interest I'm in, what are the ads for the location I'm in, all that. And then it starts to show me things in the order based on how much people are spending, basically. More they spend, higher in the auction you are. There's actually details you can get into. I don't, because it gets super, super muddy as far as like the pricing goes, but you can technically run not just placements, but you can actually be specific as like, I want to spend so much per click. So by default, my goal is like, I just want to get as many clicks as possible, but I can actually tell it that, hey, I want to spend so much per result or be willing to spend so much per result. That's why it's an auction. So if I say I'm spending, whatever, $100 a day, I'm willing to spend $5 a click. Well, my ads get shown above people who are only spending or willing to spend $2 a click or $1 a click, that kind of stuff, because that's literally an auction. So there's kind of other things that play into that. But yes, it's just it pulls current information. So have you ever been like, you ever land in a city and the first thing you do, open up Facebook and you start to see local ads for like restaurants and stuff like that, or things around the city? That's kind of the same thing. It knows where you are at that moment. But if I just did a layover and never opened Facebook and then I traveled on to another city, open my phone, it would never show me anything from the middle part because I'm not currently in that city. Again, depending on how your ads set up, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's super helpful. Thanks, Chris.
So next layers down, I say we're kind of just shrinking, right? So pick the where, how old they are, their gender. All that's the normal stuff. Let's get into the fun stuff. So demographics.
Hey, Chris,
Yes.
just before you move off that page, do you want to show people how to do an exclusion pin?
Yes.
I mean,
Thank you, Tom. So yes, I can drop a pin to include an area. I can also drop a pin to exclude an area. So I can be like whole country, except for, there's two ways to do this. So I can do it by a pin, right? So I could drop a pin in, let's do Tallahassee, why not? Tallahassee. And then by default, it is set to include this location. I can tell it to exclude this location. It's gonna yell at me because I actually don't have a second location. Hang on. They just replaced my United States. That being annoying. Fine. Do all of Florida too, since you're being annoying. I want to do both. Why would you let me do both? Fine. I will drop a pin there and I will exclude this pin since you're being annoying. So I have a pin of an area. I'm going to exclude this area. So it literally shows you kind of where the overlap is of, okay, I want this group, but not this group. Everything in red won't see the ad. Everything in blue would see the ad, or a little crossover area is excluded. So there are cases you would want to do this. For example, you could have, if you did want a specific region or area to not be included. And so if you're kind of like, I want Gulf Shores, but not these particular areas of Gulf Shores, like I want Fort Morgan, I just want the Gulf Shores like proper. You can do it that way. It's kind of the reverse of selecting where you want. I use it a lot because, like I said, the mile radius is literally, I can only go down to a mile, right? But let's say I didn't want to just target a mile, I want to target a building, like, or a soccer field, or a convention center. I can literally use the pin to get down to a mile, and let's kind of choose Nashville because I know Nashville a lot better than randomly in Tallahassee. Nashville, Tennessee. So in Nashville, if I wanted just people, like right now, there's a Preds game going on at Bridgestone Arena. So I could drop a pin, boom, Bridgestone Arena, drop it down to a mile. It's cool, but that's still all of downtown Nashville. That doesn't help me a ton, right? But I could drop a pin over here, and then I can drop it down to a mile, and I can change it to exclude. Stop it. And suddenly, okay, well, there's most of the other part. There's Nissan Stadium gone. I could drop other pins around and kind of just keep shrinking my area until it's just this itty bitty little area instead of it being the whole mile radius. So there's, yeah, you can get kind of fancy with it. Not that it's necessarily something you would use a lot, but if you do, I know I like showing people that. And thank you, Tom, for the reminder, because there's someone in here who's going to have some weird creative idea of how to use it in a unique way. And then if you do, please tell the rest of us, because it is a cool feature you're able to do. It's just, it depends on what you want to do with it to be able to United States.
Well,
Close.
what I typically use it for, Chris, is, you know, I'm in a destination vacation market. I don't want to advertise to locals. I don't want to advertise to people within 25 miles of my house. You know, because I don't want the South Carolina rednecks that live in the swamps.
Right, which is a great way to do it. So a great example of that as well is you may want like Alabama. I may want all of Alabama because people from other parts of Alabama travel down to Gulf Shores. I may not want the people within the 50 miles that is, or 25 miles that is the like Gulf Shores proper area, or a couple other key, you know, cities closer by. So that way you can still keep majority of the state who are people who may be interested to travel, because Alabama is a really tall state. But you can exclude people who are just in the specific areas. You can also exclude cities. It's just being a pain in the butt for me right now and not letting me, I wonder if it'll let me do it this way.
Hey, Chris, could you use that exclusion so that you could target airports if you had like a last minute opening? So that if somebody was coming into the area, you could grab them while they're looking?
Yep, so you could drop a pin, drop it down to a mile for an airport. You could do the same thing, kind of build that little block around an airport. Yeah, there's a couple ways to do that. And that's why you'll see a lot of times that when you land somewhere, if you open your phone, which you really should do, you'll see a bunch of ads for it's usually local restaurants and other things around. Or my favorite one is if you ever go to like amusement parks, like if you go to Disney, you'll see ads for Universal on your phone. If you go to Universal, you see ads for Disney. They spend a fortune just competing with each other because you know you're waiting in line for 4 hours to ride whatever new ride you want to ride. What are you doing? You're on your phone the entire time scrolling. So the other company is like, hey, you know, come see our other stuff that you might also be interested in. So yeah, there's lots of ways to do it and to use it. Like I said, the more creative people get with it, it's usually the better unique ways of like excluding certain spots or certain areas or people you don't want to see an ad. So,
But Chris,
Hey, Chris.
I guess my question is, I heard you say earlier that you wouldn't want to get an audience size too small. If you're using this like hyper-focused method, would that possibly create an audience that small? Because I'm thinking this could do what I was saying about condos. All the condos are beachfront in a certain strip in PCB.
yeah, so the only disadvantage to having a super small audience is that it's a super small audience. And so some of the power of what Facebook's going to do when I get into like the interests we're about to go over is that it learns so much about us and it also learns about your ad. And so kind of the longer the ad runs, the more it learns, the more it finds the people that interact with it and finds more people like them. So when your audience is too small, like 5,000 people, it just doesn't have enough people to really learn and do anything with. So if you want to do that, by all means, and like I said, we've done it for like, I wanted to be at this convention center in Las Vegas. I sure as heck don't want to spend the money for all the other people in all the other places, but like this convention center in this specific area, I want to do that. And so we create this really complex pins everywhere just to be able to do that. But I know my goal is to only get to the 1,000 people that are there. When we have everyone here for the Nashville conference, I'm gonna do the same thing. Wild Horse Saloon, boom, there's gonna be this little pin, and I want to ignore the rest of Broadway. I want all, you know, everyone else that's there to get drunk at all the bachelorette parties to see my ad. But I do want everyone who is in the building during breaks or whatever else to be able to see your ads for Build Us Turnwell stuff or whatever else. But knowing that super small, also I would know I don't need to spend as much money because I don't need to spend $20 a day when only 10,000 people are going to see my ad. I'm just going to run through them and they're going to see my ad so much that's going to give them ad blur because it's just going to keep appearing in their feed. Also, I won't be able to do any of the dynamic creative stuff because it's just not going to give enough options for Facebook to learn. It'll actually hurt it more than help it. Facebook learns the more an ad runs, the more people interact with it, the better it finds more people like those people. And so there are times where leaving it a little bit wider helps. There are times where you want to target a specific person, you're running an ad for a specific buyer. By all means, use whatever you need to as far as interests and pins and everything else, just to find that specific buyer to advertise to. The worst case, you're going to show the ad too many times to them, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just knowing that that might be a possibility when you get the audiences super, super low.
Hey, Chris, I have a quick question
Yes.
for you.
Yeah.
There's a quirky little thing that I've seen in Facebook's not able to tell me the answer. So when I select certain states, it shades the whole state. When I select other states, it actually puts a pin on it. But I don't know if it's capturing the whole state or just that area.
So
You
it
know
is
what I mean? Like,
capturing, yeah, it's capturing the whole state. So what's happening is that it's some glitch in the user interface of
okay.
it. And so I was working with Brian a couple weeks ago, and we were literally trying to pick. By the way, their whole picker's stupid. The fact I can't just click a bunch of states and then let that be
Right.
it is idiotic. But that's the way it works. So I'm going through here, and we're like, all right, let's do Michigan and Indiana. And so it selected it properly, right?
Yep.
Indiana helps us spell. By the way, spelling with people watching is possibly one of the worst fears out there. I just want to put that out there. So like Ohio didn't, right? But it's definitely
exactly.
selected the state that is Ohio. It just didn't color it properly. So it's just some weird glitch in their user interface. It's not actually it's targeting it properly. It selected the correct target and it's showing me it correctly. It's just not graphically showing me it correctly.
Great. I'm glad you're seeing that too, because I wasn't sure. I think over time I figured out that it might have been, but I even shot Facebook a note. They were like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's one of those things where they probably have so many bugs because the versions that are out, like I can't even imagine them trying to track down like something like that. That's probably only hitting a certain number of people, but yeah. And that's usually their response. Honestly, time for them, they don't care. I'll put it that way. They don't care about you as an advertiser. They don't care how much money you spend. I don't even think they care about the big advertisers, to be honest. They just want to make money. And so if you take too much time from them, they're just like, whatever, we don't care. We don't care your account got shut down. We don't care about your profile. We don't care about it at all. Someone else is going to spend money. And that's what, they're like, whatever. And so stuff like that too. They're like, hey, there's this thing. They're like, whatever. Like, oh, okay, that's cool. I appreciate it.
As long as it's pulling the whole state, and that makes me feel better. Okay.
Yeah, it'll pull the whole state. You can double check. So if you ever, like I said, you kind of get the audience size, right? And so things shrink and then add. So if I picked Indiana, for example, it would shrink to Indiana and it tells me here's my new audience size, right? 5.2 million. But if I add Michigan back in, then this is going to increase 12.5 million. Combination with two, right? So you can always kind of just double check. Like if you include a whole state, it should add a couple million people. Depending on your state, it could add lots of millions of people. But just to like double check that it isn't doing something weird and didn't include anything properly. I did say you would think states would be the first one to pop up, but Okay, interest. So I'm going to hit browse first because it kind of gives me some interesting things. So I can go demographics. And as we go through this, there's a couple like they have a certain education level. They may help you. They went to certain schools and spent a certain number of years at undergrad. Who knows your particular thing? You may have you may be in an area that's urban that does a lot of stuff for like football games. You can totally get people who went to certain schools, are members of certain alumni organizations, that kind of stuff, all that's in here. And literally, here's what I do. I kind of sit here and I type. I'm like, all right, there's a bowl game in an area. So I'm gonna type in Florida State. So, okay, people are interested in Florida State University, people are interested in Florida State Seminoles football, people are interested in Florida State Seminoles, the college sports team, other Florida State Seminoles stuff, the actual school there, they went to the motion picture arts, and kind of see, things that are in a similar realm, right? And so a lot of times I might just type something and kind of see what pops up. Is even available for that, because when you hit browse, like what it gives you is just a fraction of what you actually see. But you have demographic stuff. So financial demographics, this is one I would like to see all of you play with. So basically, based on the zip code you live in, it gives a general idea of how much money you make. That makes sense, right? So like where Bill and I live in our county, we're the richest county in the state of Tennessee. It makes sense that we would be in the top 5% of US zip codes, because that's we're in one of the richer counties, and it's in the Southeast. And so you can play with this as far as an option. So if I click this, basically it's going to narrow down to say, okay, went from the whole country to 7,000 people. Now you'll notice if I add something else in here. So if I wanted to say, I'm curious what's for Gulf Shores right now, if I just type it in. So people are interested in Gulf Shores, Alabama, right? You'll notice my number actually gets bigger and not smaller. So I go back 7 million, if I add Gulf Shores back in again, I actually increase to 9 million, right? So what it's doing is saying, whoa, that's zoomed in. What it's doing is saying people in this area who are in this financial income or interested in Gulf Shores, Alabama. It's an or, that's how this link is in here. So if I add more interest, the beach, let's see what we got, beach places, and then I can start to see suggestions. People are interested in travel, people who are frequent travelers, people who have high net worth individual, right? So my audience isn't getting smaller, it's actually getting bigger the more I'm doing this, because it's basically saying the frequent travelers, or they're in the top 5%, or they're interested in Gulf Shores, Alabama, or they might have a high net worth, or they're interested in travel, or they're interested in beaches, or, so it keeps making my audience bigger and bigger and bigger. So the option I have is I can actually make it smaller and smaller and smaller as well. So the way you do that is with this advanced targeting, the narrowing the audience. So I can include people. So we'll go back to like the Gulf Shores, Alabama, right? Like Gulf Shores, Alabama, I might do, so I'm trying to make my audience a little bit bigger, right? 2.2 million people interested in the beach. Let's get some suggestions in here. Vacations, travel leisure, the publication, sure, why not? Tourism. So I'm making my audience bigger, right? Airbnb, why not? Vrbo have one too? Let's find out. Vrbo, the interest, not the employer, big difference there. Vrbo interest, right? So I made my audience bigger. But now I'm like, you know what? I want people to have all these interests, but are also of a certain net worth. So I would narrow the audience, and this is where the and comes in. So this is the ors, makes my audience bigger. The and, I'm gonna get my demographic, financial, and top 5% of US zip codes. And then boom, it's gonna shrink it down. It went from, went from 116 million people down to, come on, give up with me, down to 3.5 to 4.1 million people, right? So I expanded it by putting some interests in, and then I shrunk it by giving it one thing that I wanted it to really focus on, which in this case was income. So remember what I said, like there's a billion options when it comes to this? This is really where it comes in. I could test income being the thing. I could test a specific interest being the end also. I could test what's included in the top part and the different interests. I can play around with different types of interests. So do I want it to be, so example, Gulf Shores had a specific thing, right? But interests are truly, when they say interest, they mean interest. So I could go back, should mean like remove all button. So if you're in a certain area, maybe golf, the sport is an interest. Well, then when I go through suggestions, well, interest might there be golf equipment, golf magazine, Golf Channel. And again, how does it learn Golf Digest? How does it learn all this stuff? What's the stuff you interact with? You see that post from something, PGA, you like it, you comment on it. In Bill's case, he shares it because a certain player did really well. Then that's how it learned all the stuff about you. That's how you're able to do the interest. But like I said, I just type stuff in. This is where that buyer persona really comes in. So if I know who the person is, what might they be interested in? What magazines, what shows would they watch? Where would they visit? And you try to start to keep building out the type of person who might be interested in coming to your property, or reasons they would come to your property that are also interested in. That's kind of where I started with beach, for example. But if you're looking for people of stages of life, people that are, I'm curious if it would find anything. No, snowboarding, snow weather, snowmobile, snow patrol. Piercer, snowboard magazine, snowboard Utah. So I literally, when I start, I kind of get, my goal is I want to pick my place, pick my demographics, those don't change. Then as I start to go through the targeting, I start typing in those things that are like those interests, those behaviors, and we even get into, so we started with demographics, right? You can do whether the parents of certain age children, parents with toddlers, parents with teenagers. Again, it knows this because, you usually post like, oh my gosh, here's my baby. And then Facebook's like, yes, we have information about you that you didn't expect to share with us. And we're going to put it in your profile for everyone, for us to use for advertising. New parents, all that stuff. Relationships, are they married, divorced, engaged, complicated, whatever. The work stuff, it does have some job titles, as you kind of saw. Interests, do you have hobbies? Is travel some of your hobbies? What are you interested about in travel? Food, drink, fitness, wellness, all that stuff. This is really where it comes really good to kind of type stuff in. Then behaviors are some of the fun ones. So like, do you have an anniversary coming up? Are you usually someone who purchases on here? Are you a person from certain areas? This is where for e-commerce, people exclude certain of those areas of the world that you don't want it to be in. Do you have gamer? Are you Facebook page admin? Have you visited certain Facebook pages? Blah blah blah. Even down to if you really wanted to, a mobile device. Are they engaged shoppers? Are they frequent travelers? Have they been traveling recently? All these options out there. So really, this is the hard part. It's like when we talk about ads and the targeting of ads, and even stuff we've given you guys before, they're like part of the Host Academy. There are so many options, so many options. So this is really where the testing comes in, of playing with what options can I test with? How can I decrease the audience? How can I increase the audience? And this is why I want you to run as many ads as you possibly can or are comfortable with running, so you can learn. So as you would test, you might say, okay, I did beach and I did Gulf Shores specifically because it was Gulf Shores. And I just saw that My Vacation Rentals. Yep. And give me some suggestions, some other things. I might have tested that. And then I also made it be the income. Or it could be, I just want people interested in Gulf Shores and interested in vacation rentals as the lodging, or VRBO or whatever. So there's so many options to really test and play with and play around with. So ad set level, you kind of circle back. Campaign, what do we want them to do? We want them to click and actually go to a landing page. Name it. Ad set level, who are you targeting? Kind of still the overall goal, right? And then how much you wanting to spend, and then who is seeing it based on their interests, their demographics, where they live, all that. That's really it. I don't touch anything else. I let Facebook pick the placements. I let Facebook do the bidding. Let it do all that. I'm not going to get into any of that. It's not worth the energy of playing around with all that. I would rather you spend the energy in testing out the different demographics and different interests and playing with that than playing with like, oh, this one only showed on Instagram, this one only showed on Facebook, and these only showed in Facebook Messenger, just as stories. Like, it's just not worth it. Let Facebook do its thing and figure all that out. So now we picked what they're doing, who they are. Now we get to pick what they see. So, whoops.
Sorry, Chris, one more question.
Yes.
Can you target someone based on like a group on Facebook that they're in or something like that, or a page they've liked or anything of that nature?
Pages potentially. So pages of certain sizes, they would show as just a general interest. So for example, let's see if I can find. So what it means by interest is that any pages who would be relevant to Tiger Woods or him as a person or anything that comments about him, that's kind of what it means by interest there. And so sort of pages, no to groups. I wish we could do groups. They've been saying that they're going to let you do groups for forever and a day. And that would be incredible for us because I could be like, oh, I want to advertise the people who are in all the stupid other Facebook groups that are out there. Now you can get a little spicy. I'm gonna pull a Bill concept in here. So technically, if you run an ad and you shared an ad into a group and people in that group viewed that ad, I could retarget them because they saw the ad, right? And so I could technically run an ad that's to whatever audience or super specific audience I could pick, and then grab the link to the ad and share it wherever I wanted to share it, and then build a custom audience based on people who viewed that ad, if it's a video, or click the link, that kind of thing. Now, I can't be specific, so if Facebook doesn't let me, if I ran 15 ads to one landing page, right? And I wanted to retarget people who visit that landing page, I can't be as specific as people who came from this ad and then visited this page. It doesn't work that way. It's just anyone who visited the page. But for video views, it's a little different. So like if I ran an ad, shared it into a group or on a page or whatever, and I retargeted based on video views, then it would only be people who actually saw that video, which I could get super spicy and just make an ad where only people, basically I spend like no money on the ad, so it just exists, and then share it in certain places. And that way the only video views that are on it are the people who I shared it with and not the people I'm paying, because I'm not really paying anything. I'm paying $1 a day and like my audience is super narrow. And so that's one kind of spicy way to do it. It's actually the way that when we started Build Esoteric Wealth, that we would try and build our audience, because we would share content into as Bill, but Bill his business brand. So Bill Faith, the coach, into certain groups. And then we would use the retargeting options in the videos to be able to show those people ads before we ever had our own Facebook group really built or our own email list or anything like that. So yeah, spicy way, but no, not directly. I wish we could. That'd be incredible. Make my life 1,000 times easier. So an ad, again, naming this as Mother Maggie. Still summer bookings. Whoops. By the way, y'all are troopers. We're an hour and a half in. We haven't got done making an ad yet. Holy crap. So basically the identity is what page is it coming from? What Instagram accounts it coming from? That's really the only point of this. You can tell I can pick any of the ad accounts or any of the Facebook pages I'm attached with. It lets you in any ad account go any page that you have. It allows you to kind of mix and match. If you don't have an Instagram account, it will still advertise on Instagram. It's just when they click to it, there's nowhere for them to go. It just allows you to advertise, but doesn't actually have a page behind it. The actual ads. So I can do, it's gonna tell me, do I want to manually upload ads? Yes, I'll do that. I can pick an image. I have dynamic creative selected, right? I just want to double check that real quick. Okay, just turn on. Cool. So I can, says one image or video, blah, 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 but I can select the images. So I'm gonna go in here, what do we even have in here? Sure, why not? So I'm gonna pick Bill and this one, bootcamp images, because that's what I got in here. Hit continue. And so it's gonna start to say, okay, these are the images that we'll test, right? Multiple options. I leave this on, so as I kind of go down through here of like check boxes and stuff. Branded content stays off. Branded content's like if you're partnering with, you're a big brand and you partner with another brand, you would want to say that so that legally you aren't going to get docked later for not disclosing that's a sponsored ad. Mainly upload. A carousel is a, and let me just grab a page real quick. So we'll preview. Sure, buildlistall.com. And then my stupid, there we go. Let me put a website in so we'll actually start to preview everything over here. Okay, so carousel ad is one of these ad types that that is a multiple, like it has multiple boxes across it. That's what a carousel ad is. And on Instagram, it would show as multiple images like that, or in different places, it shows as multiple options like that. So that's a fun one to play with because you can put multiples in here and it just kind of shows them in this like couple of boxes. If you don't have that turned on, it will just show a single image as an ad. But like I said, I have dynamic creative turned on. It actually creates variations. So it's just showing me this variation, but I could actually tell it, show me all the variations. It'll show me all the different variations that are possible. Next is the primary text. So I'm not gonna get super into like what to say. This is where last meeting where I'm like, use ChatGPT, use Jasper. This is the time to use those things. I was actually in ChatGPT earlier and I'm like, can't spell today. By the way, they fixed the verify I'm a human. They fixed the record of all my previous chats, so that's awesome. I can go back and find other stuff. But I was literally like, you know what? YouTube titles for a podcast or an outline for a book about digital marketing. Summarize, take this text and make it into a call to action. You know, it's incredible for stuff like that. So if you're using ChatGPT, use it. It's freaking cool. Helps write really fast. Jasper makes the writing even better. So I don't want to get into too much of like what to say because using those tools, you can literally be like, hang on, let me make a new chat.
They just a little anecdote. They just my son just got a note that their school is having a meeting tomorrow because too many kids were using that to submit reports.
And the crazy thing is, this isn't even the best one for that. So like if I do small side tangent. So if I go into ChatGPT, it's not connected to the internet, right? If I told it to write a report about a specific topic, it could totally do that, but it's going to cite sources that don't exist, right? Because it doesn't have access to the internet. But there are other AI softwares out there that do and can legitimately write an essay and cite accurate sources in MLA format in it, and just like boom, click the button and it's done. It's kind of freaking mind blowing, but yeah, we're gonna see. I'm not surprised that we will see very quickly panic, because that's usually what happens when new things come out, right? Complete and utter panic, and then fear, and then eventually acceptance. That's usually the order that things go in when new technologies disrupt kind of how things have gone. But you guys may not know this, but I work a ton with my high school's media program. And the crazy thing is that even for something as advanced as media, they are probably 10 years behind what's current as far as like whether it's technology or concepts or anything like that. And it's the combination of one, funding, even for, like I said, we're one of the richest counties in the Southeast, like it's still a funding thing of equipment's just so freaking expensive. But it's also that the county is afraid of so many things that they just would rather lock it down than even deal with it. So like they're allowed to have Twitter, but not Instagram, not TikTok, just Twitter, nothing else besides that. And so there's lots of stuff like that. They're super interesting. Anyways,
So their solution is, just I'll tell you real quick, is they're not giving homework anymore. All the work will be done in school.
Wow, that's a solution right there. That's
right.
That's impressive.
That's a win for the kids.
Man,
like sweet.
That's crazy. So
Anyway,
in
sorry.
ChatGPT, like I said, I've been loving this thing. It's I use it all over the place, and I keep finding new fun ways to do it. Like I said, some of the hardest things is writing content, and so I just give it some words and it's going to make content for me. So I can be like, you know what, write a Facebook ad or a 4-bedroom. If anyone wasn't on, you should go back and watch the last meeting recording. It's up in the library. I don't know if I keep sending you guys ridiculously long emails. I apologize about that. We have so much crap going on. There's like, I'm trying to make sure you guys are seeing everything that's happening. But the recording was definitely in there and it should, server for home in Gulf Shores, Alabama. Focusing on family activities and sure, go through there. And let it write its thing. Very cool. Ads written. I can take it into Jasper, sexy it up a little bit, make it sound a little bit nicer. But for the most part, that's what I love about this thing. I don't have to say with a blank page. I don't have to think about, oh, I need to make sure I mention, this, I mentioned that, just to put it in here, give me some ideas and get what I want out of it. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on the actual ad side. Just the goal of an ad. One, you want to stop their feed. You want to stop them from scrolling, right? So you want to use images. Videos are awesome because I can retarget based on the amount of the video that they watched. Images, videos, the goal is to get them to stop. So sometimes that might be you talking, sometimes that might be of the property, sometimes that might be of the location itself. This is where testing comes in. You can have the same exact targeting. This is actually kind of the cool thing. So I said the holder, right? So the campaign holds everything. What's the goal of the campaign? The objective. The ad set is who I'm sending it to. The ad is what they see. So I could create one ad here. Okay, I created this ad, cool. I could duplicate it, right? Keep everything the same and existing everything. Cool, now I have a copy. Whoops, I duplicated the ad set of the ad. Hang on, let me undo what I did.
Hey,
Delete.
Chris, do you
Yes, sir.
think a Matterport is too much work?
I think it depends on where it will be seen. So they are cool, and there are times in certain properties that are hard to describe. So for a conventional home, you're I would use Bill's Dragonfly as an example. You're like, it's pretty like, here are the rooms. It's pretty easy to understand what floors are which, where bedrooms are. Like, I don't even need to really diagram it out I can explain to someone very quickly in like 2 sentences of like, here's where that is, here's where this is. For some properties, it's like a maze. And for those, it might be very good to use that or have that included as an option, especially on like Verbo that lets you put it in, or on the landing page. For those properties that are more confusing or harder to explain the layout. There are times we get, I'm sure you guys get the same things, we get messages of like, which one's on which floor. So if you aren't doing a good job explaining it, that's a key to it, because someone might have elderly parents and they're trying to pick which bedroom that they should stay in because they can't get up. They wanted them to go up the stairs. So they want them on the first floor. Does that one have an ensuite or not? So those types of things this is where, like we've talked about before, having either Matterport or even having the like drawn up images of the floor plan as options in later on in the photos for those types of people who have those questions. So you could quickly be like, here's a photo of it, and kind of lay out and answer those things quickly. Anyway, so I'm gonna duplicate an ad. I'm gonna do it right this time. No. Oh, I know why, because I'm using dynamic creative, sorry. So when I use dynamic creative, I can't have more than one ad in an ad set, because basically I already have more than one ad. So if I wanted to have more images shown, I can just add more images. If I wanted to have different types of text shown, I'm gonna add a couple of variations in real quick. It's just kind of pulling from the website actually. So I don't need to create a separate ad because it's actually testing this text and this text. So there's no need for me to create a second ad. It's also, if I create a headline, I'm gonna let it do, pick these random here. This one, add one more in. So it's creating all my different variations. I like that description. We're finding a fluffer filler here. So if I actually go to the preview again, I could say, oh, for this image 1, I want text 1 or text 2, and Facebook's gonna do the testing, right? So I don't need to, and they can kind of show me the preview of that. Or, image 1, text 2, headline 3. So it's going to show me the preview of that. So I don't need to create a separate ad because it already has all those variations. It's going to test against each other and do all that. But if you didn't have dynamic creative selected, if you wanted to say, I want this specific image just to be the image, and I want to test it against another specific image, you could do that by having dynamic creative turned off. And then it would let you actually create multiple ads in an ad set. Like I said, they're like a folder. So any ad in this ad set would all be seen by this audience. All the ad sets in this campaign will have the same objective as the parent campaign. That's kind of the way they get structured down. But kind of continuing down, put your text in, you kind of see the difference. So the text, the primary text, you literally get like 2 sentences before it gets cut off. That's just the way it works now. So it's key to remember that. You kind of want the big, why should they stop in the first 2 sentences? Otherwise, they may not see more and see the rest of it. The headline is the big bold area that's usually below it. You kind of see different examples on Instagram. There is no headline, doesn't even show on Instagram. On Marketplace, it does show on where's this, the video feeds, it would show it plus a little bit of the text. So like the different areas you can kind of see quickly. The description basically doesn't show anywhere, which is kind of funny. But it's still, I would definitely fill it out because it is something that it knows and it looks for. The display link is if you wanted to show something different than the URL, you could tell it what do you want the link to display as. So it does show a preview of it. So if it was like this / mastermind, for example, it shows just the base and not the parent. So this is the difference between like if you have lead pages, that lpages.co / whatever, build a stairwell. Or lpages.builderswamp.co, whatever it makes as that landing page, it would actually show it in here instead of like if I connected it to Kiva vacation rentals.com. If I connected it in there, then it would show it's Kiva vacation rentals. I typed that wrong. I'm not going to fix it. I can show a call extension, not going to need that. I can change the call to action. So instead of learn more, could be book now, for example, contact us. Generally, I do learn more for things, but you could play with the other options. Really, I would probably just use learn more or book now, get quote maybe. But further down, the tracking, here's where I make sure my pixel is selected. It technically lets me pick any pixel I want that's connected to this account. I want to pick my pixel, make sure it is selected, make sure it's green, that it has been tracking. Everything else you can kind of ignore. If you all get super fancy and want to dig into the difference between URL parameters, meaning I could tell like Google Analytics who visited based on this specific ad to a page, a number of visitors, but Facebook should show me the analytics pretty darn well. So that's kind of the basics of actually creating the ad. Create the ad set, or I'm sorry, the campaign. What's the objective? What do you want them to do? You want them to click all the way to the website. How much am I spending, and who am I wanting to see the ad? That's a horrible sentence. Then the actual ad itself, what are they seeing? That's kind of the layers down of it. That's the basics of it. Like I said, I didn't really want to get into we can dive into this another time of like the writing, the how to create variations, but really with the AI tools, like it's super easy. The creative itself, what images to use, this is really where you can play around with. Does a iPhone image perform better than a professional photography image? Don't know. Got to test it to find out. Does a well done video versus video of a person versus you talking perform better? Don't know. You got to test it to find out. So there's lots of options with that. The creative, I always recommend Canva as a super option. If you want some video stuff done, Fiverr is an incredible option for that because you can give them that's with 2 R's, and basically look for video edit. Oh, stop it. And then I could find someone who's a video editor. I know, I already logged in. Stop being annoying. There we go. So I can find a video editor For a particular price range, I can kind of go in and see their work and that kind of stuff. And basically it's pretty simple. If I can give them some stuff, some would, they tell you kind of what they work for that amount. So you can get different variations of if you have your clips together, if you want just to make something from photos into a slideshow, there's lots of stuff you can do with that. You can do that in Canva as well, as far as like just putting some photos into a slideshow and do all that kind of stuff. All right, now the last bit, we're on the home stretch, retargeting. I haven't lost my voice yet. Okay, so basically, like I said, the way retargeting works is Facebook tracks me and I can go anywhere. I can go to Nike, right? And there's a little Facebook pixel, right? Nike, you have your Facebook pixel on, don't you, Nike? Or do you not? Nike's slacking right now? Hang on, let me go to a different page. Shop men's. Want some Dunk High retros. What are you doing, Nike? Why aren't your Facebook pixel on? That's a bad example. Nike's apparently slacking right now. Let me go to Amazon. I know they definitely have their Facebook pixel on. Where's my Facebook pixel broken? My pixel tracker broken. Fine, my examples are sucking. Anywhere you go, it knows where you go. So if I click literally on this thumb drive, yep, I'm a nerd, deal with it. And later on, I'm searching through Facebook. I'm going to see thumb drives galore because I clicked here and Facebook knows that I clicked and saw this particular thing and I searched certain things. It's just going to track me all the way through. Same way to retarget. What can you retarget off of? That's a great question. So if you go to the hamburger, go to audiences, this is where you can kind of start to create your audiences. So an audience is just a group of people I can advertise to. That's the way I think of it. So when I create an audience, I'm basically telling Facebook, and I can do a custom audience or lookalike audience. I can do lookalikes in a second. Custom audience says, I want, based on these criteria, for Facebook to find the people that match the criteria, and I want to advertise to them. So there's two steps to this. One, I create the audience, and then two, I go back and I put the audience into the ad set. So I tell Facebook, I want these people to see this ad. What can I retarget off of? I can target off of the website. So if I go into this a little bit, let me go to our pixel. Boom. I can do all the website visitors. People visit specific pages on the website. People visited, spent a certain amount of time on the website. So they had a certain number of percentage of top 5%. I have specific pages. I can, boom, to all the visitors. I can go to 180 days. This is why I said to have the pixel and just put it in there. It can't go past 180 days. So it's going to be like the last, year worth. It's only allowed 180. But those are kind of things you can retarget. You can match the specific criteria, any of the following criteria. You can layer this together. People visit this page plus visit this page if you want to get super, super spicy with it. But for most people, it's you do people who visited a specific site. So like I said, I have one pixel everywhere, right? So if I let this run, it would be anyone, anywhere, right? But what I really want is people who visited buildstrwealth.com. And basically it says that if as long as the URL contains buildstrwealth.com, that's a group of people I'm trying to narrow down and let Facebook tell me who they are. So besides websites, I can do customer lists. So when we talked about how important the email list is, this is why. So I can actually, if I have an email list of people, of previous people who stayed with you, of emails you collected, we're going to talk in Orlando about lead magnets and what they are. And Kenny, what he's doing right now with the market research PDF is a perfect example of that, where you have a valuable resource and then you make people give you their email in exchange for the valuable resource. And now you have emails to advertise to. So you can literally upload emails, phone numbers, first name, last name. You have extra information about them, zip codes, date of birth, all that. Basically what Facebook does is you upload a list. It tries to match the list of people to the information that they've given to Facebook. And then once it does, boom, you're able to advertise to that specific person, which is incredible. we use it all the time. We'll upload our email list into here and let it match. Obviously, there's a difference between work emails, personal emails, whatever Facebook knows about you. So, but it's still incredible for advertising to previous guests or to make a lookalike, which we'll talk about in a second. The other things you can do are how they interacted with video. So for example, if I can do people who viewed 10 seconds of a video, I can do people who viewed a certain percentage of the video. So when you talk about that kind of layering of getting people who have seen something and then continuing to show them ads, this is how you do that. So I could have a video and say, I want people, at least it's a 2-minute video. So if you watched a minute of my video, I captured your attention. You may be really interested, but you may just not have been at the right moment, or I might not have spoke to you in the right way. So let me do 50% of the video and show you a different ad afterwards. I'll go in here, I could choose the videos of whatever. Oh, look, it's all ads I've run because it's on Dolphin for some reason. I may list your wells. Boom. People who watch text 3-second, 3-second video views, that's lame. Boom. People watch the Minoan broadcast. Why not? And I can do people 50%. People who watch at least 50% of the video. It's a long video. That's a lot of people. I'll probably do something like people who watch at least 25% and then give me more options. We love videos.
Sorry if I misunderstood this, but how are you targeting? Was like the Minoan broadcast an ad of some sort? Is that how you're able to target those people?
No. So I can target people based on ads that have run. I also target people based on videos I've posted as my page. So you can do either
Okay,
or,
got it.
or
Mhm.
both.
Got it.
That's why when I first started it, actually, when it was on the Dolphin, whatever Dolphin was, Dolphin. All these are actual ads. Some people are targeting them. It kind of tells me where they are. That's why like this one has 1.3 over 1 million 3-second video views. So I can retarget a percentage of that, or this is one of those where because so many people have seen it, I would want a higher percentage. Where some of these other ones that are smaller, I would want a lower percentage of video views. But you can watch percentage, what time, last bit. This is where I name things. You can kind of see back in my naming here, full retarget, Facebook group list, based on the testimonials, AirDNA training, my demo for something I did at some point in time. So I kind of name it so I keep an eye, because later on when I create the ad in the ad set, when I say who it goes to, I need to make sure I know correctly which audience I'm choosing in it. Other than that, there's not a ton of other stuff. I mean, you could do if they did your Instagram account, that may or may not be worth it. If they interact with your Facebook page, maybe people who engage with your page, people who currently like your page, people who clicked in some stuff on your page, people who saved any page posts. But usually most pages aren't that big, and so it's not necessarily worth it to create custom audience in that way. But from any custom audience, go ahead.
Okay, so you're saying you can post a video of like the 10 things I like about the beach on my Facebook page and then share that into the groups, and then anybody who takes the time to watch that video, we can go back and retarget.
Correct.
But you guys prefer to do it with the lead pages and get the email, attempt to get the email, and then
There's
pixel.
a different way to do it. So and you can kind of, it's really the Bill Faith spicy way is both. So I could have a video with a call to action of like visit the page. So I can retarget people based on how much of the video they watched. I can also retarget people based on whether they visited the page. Even if they didn't give me their email because they visited the page, I can retarget them. Then I can retarget the people that actually give me their email because they go to a different page with a different ad. I can have 3 different retargeting ads, all from the same campaign or idea. Just there are different levels of it. Some people didn't click, so I might show them a different type of ad to get them interested in clicking. Some people clicked but didn't give the email. That could be a different type of ad. Some people would all the way give me the email. Then that's a different ad. The next steps, now that they've seen whatever PDF I've given them or whatever it might be. So that's where, like, I don't know if we've talked much about like building like a funnel. That's really where that comes in, of like, what are the steps, and kind of diagnosing along the way of like, okay, I have an ad that goes to a page. A bunch of people are seeing the ad, but they're not clicking to the page. That means that there's something wrong with the ad, because if a bunch of people are seeing the ad, they're not clicking, that means the ad's not reaching the right people. So I need to either work on the copy for the people, or I need to work on the people that are seeing it, one of the two, right? If they're going to the page, but not going all the way to actually like requesting quotes or something like that, then I either am hitting the wrong people, or I'm not making enough of a compelling argument on the page for it to be interesting for them to go all the way. If they're doing a quote and then not actually submitting, then or actually purchasing, then there may be something in that process. My pricing may be too high, pricing maybe whatever, some of the policies aren't whatever. Now, the thing that's different about short-term rentals, that's very different from like e-commerce, is that if I have 10,000 products I'm selling, then the only thing that if they went all the way to add a cart and didn't purchase, then either they aren't interested in the product, or they didn't, whatever at the moment. There's lots of other like reasons they may have made the purchase, right? But one of the key reasons they may not have booked at your property is because your dates may not be open for the dates they're interested in. So it's not that they're not interested in the property. It's not that they weren't interested the whole way through. It's just that for their specific vacation, your property may not be available. And so that's why they didn't go all the way. So it's not like there's something wrong. It's just that it didn't fit them at the moment. But that's where retargeting comes in, because then the next time they may be interested in the future or next year, how you want to advertise to them, that you can continue to show ads. So they would be like, you know what? This year we couldn't go because the dates weren't open, but next year we're going to book this property because it looks incredible, and we're going to make sure we get in early, that kind of thing.
So what are the benchmarks to consider it successful? Like, how long do you let them run before you start to judge them? And then what is good for a rental? Because you're right, there's one rental a weekend, not 8,000 Nikes. So what's the standard?
So the goal I'm trying to get is like somewhere between 2 to 5% each step of the way. If I show my ad 200 people, I want 2 to 5 people to click. If the 2 to 5 people click, and I've had 100 people on my landing page, I would hope that 2 to 5 of those actually click through and submit a quote. And of those 2 to 5 that submit a quote, then I would hope that it continues to go downhill. That's why the funnel, I want as many people as possible to see the ad, so I get as many people as possible to click, so I get as many people as possible to go the next way, because the reality is, even if people submit the quote, or maybe even look at the dates or fill out the form, however you might have your direct booking stuff set up, that only a small percentage, like 2%, will actually book. And so it's just a numbers game all the way through of like, I want as many people as possible. And that's where the diagnosing comes in, because if you start to see if it's, if it's a way off percentage wise, you get like 1%, 0.5% that are going from the ad to the actual page, and there's something wrong in that step. You could also go the other way. Brian MacArthur is at like 10% of going from the ad to the landing page. Now his, I'm trying to diagnose because he's not getting really any of the booking side. And I don't know if that's just because, like I said, the hard part of diagnosing that is that it may just be the dates aren't available. There may be other circumstances that are preventing someone from going all the way, other than they aren't interested in that specific property. That's the tough part of figuring it out. Okay, last step. I even know the chat is jamming.
Oh, sorry, one more. So how long do you let them run before you decide? Because Facebook is
weeks.
learning too, right? So
Yep. I don't touch a thing for 2 weeks. I let it
Okay.
do its thing. I ignore it. I want to look at it. I so bad want to go in and make adjustments, but I let it do its thing for at least 2 weeks, and then I'll go back in, and then I repeat that process. 2 weeks, go in, take a look, make some adjustments. Now it's eerily similar. This is why I think I like the listing optimization so much. Testing on Facebook is identical to testing with listing optimization. So if you go in and you're like, I changed the photos, and I changed the headline, I changed all this stuff, and then you drastically change one direction or another in rankings, you have no idea what change you did, how it impacted what actually happened. And the same thing works for Facebook ads. If you're like, you see it and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to change the image out, I'm also going to change the text, I'm going to change these things, I'm going to change the targeting, and then you're like, oh my gosh, this one's performing so much better. You don't know what any individual change actually made the impact, so you can't repeat it again. That's kind of the goal of it, right? So if you're going to make changes, make one change. If you're going to change targeting, just change targeting and let that be the change, and then compare it. Like there's a lot of math when it comes to like the math side of actually knowing whether the change you did anything. The truth is that for pretty any of us, unless you're spending like $1,000 a day, mathematically, you can't know that the change you made actually made the impact that you would hope it would make, because there isn't enough certainty, because enough people haven't gone through it to actually know that for sure. So there is kind of a, like, you're trying to get a general idea of like, I made this change. Yeah, my cost per click went down, my click-through rate went up. That was a good change. I made a change, my cost per click went up, the click-through rate went down. That's a bad change. Let me kind of go back and undo what I did, or try to do something different instead.
So if we all got a few up and got them going and then looked at them with you in Orlando, that would be enough time to. Okay.
That'd be enough time at least to take a look and kind of give an idea of how it's performing and whether you should leave it, adjust it, or really adjust it. That's kind of the way I always think of them.
Awesome.
Very welcome. Last little bit about audiences is the lookalike audience. And now I'll get into the analytics side, because I think people skim over that. And then because y'all are troopers, that's been 2 hours. And then I'll let you guys go because it's past my bedtime already. So the last kind of audience you can make is what's called a lookalike audience. So basically, like I said, Facebook learns a lot about us, right? So I'm able to take any of the custom audience that I make, whether it's for video views, whether it's a customer list, whether it's from a website, create a lookalike from it. Basically, Facebook just goes out and says, okay, Chris visited the page. This is what Chris is interested in. This is what Chris is as a person. Basically pulls my buyer persona. And it says, all right, I want to find other people that are like Chris. And so it will literally, I pick an audience. So oh my gosh, I have so many in here. The build short-term rental Facebook group, sure. And then for United States, there we go. It's basically just going to say, I'm going to find to the best 1% match people who are like the people of this audience. So this is a very much garbage in, garbage out scenario, right? So if you use a list of a whole bunch of people that are very varied, then you're going to get a bunch of people that are varied. It's not going to be super specific. If you use people who are like your top bookings, it's going to find more people like the people that were your top bookings. So the better data you give it, the better data you get back from it. The problem is that it requires at least 100 emails or 100 people to be able to even create a lookalike to begin with. So so people kind of, you have to have that. So you have to have enough emails. It takes a little bit, blah, blah, blah. But lookalikes are super powerful. They're also one of the cheapest ways to advertise. It's the lookalikes, because there's so many people typically in the lookalike audience. Your cost per click super low. The normal interest targeting, cost per click somewhere in the middle. Retargeting, cost per click is the highest because it's such a small audience that you're going to pay more per click to reach that small group of people. It knows because you're using custom audiences and retargeting that you're more specific about your buyer, and so they know they can get more money out of you because of that. Basically, what Facebook thinks about it. But whether you have a lookalikes or custom audience, they work the same way for ads. If I go back to the ads manager, I go back into the ad I created. So instead of in the ad set level, let's edit this. So campaign level, ad set level, make sure I'm in the ad set level. So instead of picking all the demographics of like the United States and all the detail targeting and all that, I literally would just click in here and pick my custom audience. This is a retarget of all the build SQL stuff. I can pick my lookalike. So right now, again, it's the or, and it's going to pop up a bunch of stuff on the right side, right? Increase your audience size. They may not be able to reach all this information. It doesn't know any estimations. So this is all because of the last 2 presidential races that Facebook no longer will tell you anything about the audience you created. Basically, if you all haven't dug into it, there's an amazing documentary kind of about the way that the Trump campaign used Facebook to game the data side. It's super cool. It's super nerdy. I'm sure Kenny loves it too. But basically they were using the ability of the custom audiences to narrow down and actually find voters of a certain type. And then being able to then show and for political campaigns are not supposed to be able to be selective in who sees certain things in that way, but they're able to because of custom audiences. So Facebook removed all that information. So I have no clue now of how big this audience is or what it is, but I do know that if they visit the website, they're getting retargeted and they're gonna see this ad, or if they're the lookalike of that retarget, they would see this ad. That's kind of the way it works. Everything else is the same though, so you can narrow it down. Some people don't necessarily know that. So like, I could say this retarget, for example, the difference is retargets less people. So I can say this retarget, I can narrow it down further. I wouldn't want to because it's just, you know, a couple thousand people. But the lookalike is 2.8 million people because it's 1% of the country and there's 280 million people give or take in the country. So that's how that works. So I could narrow it down further. So I could again do the same type of other demographic detail targeting if I wanted to kind of narrow that down and narrow it down, or I could leave it. It really depends on what you want. So did all that, running your ad, you run custom audiences, you do some retargeting. Oh, retargeting should be like $1 a day. You're not going to reach enough people to need to spend more than that. Even at that, you can't spend less than $1 a day, but I said $1 a day, maybe $2 a day, just let it do its thing, let it retarget. And it does update. So if you make a custom audience of people who visit your website, it's a rolling 180 days. So if someone new visits tomorrow, then tomorrow they'll get the ad. You don't have to keep like making new custom audiences for website retargeting, that kind of thing, or video views or anything else like that. It just updates automatically. So let me go to an ad that actually has information, like the Facebook group retargeting. So we kind of go through the columns here. Results is what it says. How many people viewed the landing page that came from the ad? 14 people. And it's going to give you a little thing. We don't know because Apple took our money and we can't make money anymore. It's basically what it says. So they can't track as well as they used to track. That's basically what they're telling you. So that it's some of the actual numbers, some of a model they made based on partial information. Reach is how many. We'll do impressions first. Impressions are how many people saw it. And by saw or seen, it's just it appeared on their device, on their screen. So they could have just been scrolling really fast and it appeared, right? That's technically an impression. It was seen. Reach is how many people actually saw it for more than a moment, or actually had more of an interaction with it than just it appearing in their feed or kind of scrolling past it or anything like that. Cost per result is how much are we spending per landing page view. So $4.31 per landing page view is our cost per result. Amount spent in a given time, $60. So this gives my window, December 4th, January 2nd. That's where this information is coming from. There are other views. So if I actually switch it to performance and clicks, which is a good one, it'll actually give me again the cost per click, full impressions, how am I spending per 1,000 impressions, my total link clicks were there in that time, what was my click-through rate. So I said for us, this ad has not been updated or changed in like 2 years. And it just runs. It runs all the time. I still see it. I laugh at it because it's a picture of Bill and Bria with the join the group thing. And it's actually on our list. Bill and I had a meeting today that we're updating all of our Facebook ads across everything. We're going to go heavy into we basically run no ads for anything anywhere for all the Bill and Stillwell stuff. And we're changing that this year. We're going to go into it. But the big things you want to know are what are your results? What's the reach versus the impressions? This one gives me frequency. How many times has someone seen that particular ad? How much am I spending total? And then what's my click-through rate for the ad? Of all the people that have seen it, how many people have actually clicked through it and moved on to the next step? So this would say that my ad sucks, which I know it sucks because I haven't changed it in 2 years. But that's kind of the basics of the information. Frequency is an awesome one just because if your frequency gets up into like the 15s, it's time to make a new ad. That's usually the way I think of that. Because frequency is how many times someone's seen it. They're going to get ad blur after about 10 to 12. If it hits 15, then yeah, they're probably sick of seeing your ad in their timeline. You should probably change up the creative element, the image or the video to something new or something different. For most people, you'll never do it, but this is a retargeting based on everyone who's visited anywhere on any of our sites. So that's why this frequency can get probably significantly higher than most. So 2 hours later, been through all the technical stuff, how to make an ad, retargeting, all the analytics stuff. You guys have any questions?
I do on the lead page. You mentioned at one point where to put a pixel and lead in your
Mhm.
lead page.
Let me show my screen again. And where lead pages. Log in and log in again. Landing pages. So I'll pull up, I was playing with making an entire landing page out of AI stuff. So we'll go into that one. In it on the left side, under the settings, you have a few different settings. So this is where you kind of like, if someone Googled it, how would it show like? If you shared it on Facebook, what image would show, what text would show? And the important one's analytics. So I can put in a Google Analytics tracking ID, or in the head section, I would put the Facebook pixels. If I go back to my event manager, and I just want to find my existing pixel. Add events. Sure, from a new website, why not? There we go. I just want the code, dang it. So I take the code, and I put it in the head section tracking, hit save, and then when I publish this, it's now on my landing page, and I can actually, I have like, I link in my pic. No, it's working over here. Why is it not working over here? My little pixel tracker plugin thing for Chrome. I can double check and make sure that, like, for Build STR Wealth, like, yeah, my pixel's working. Build STR Wealth, that's the correct pixel ID, and then what it's tracking that people viewed the page. That's kind of my way to double check it. And so, I always tell people, like, put the pixel on early if you don't plan on advertising or retargeting for a while. Let it collect the data. So when you're ready, it's already there, instead of you having to wait for it to collect new data along the way. It really is like I said, the owner res one's stupid. There should be no reason why I can't put an individual pixel per property or however I want to do it. I think it has something to do with the way they track stuff, but that's just the way it is with owner res. You get one pixel. That's, like I said, that's why I don't have a pixel per property, just because we use owner res for everything, and that's the way we use it.
If you don't have the OwnerRez websites, how are you still using the pixel and OwnerRez? Like, what are you?
So OwnerRez will technically track whether it's the widget or the pixel. So on their end, again, I haven't fully seen this yet. So supposedly and I wonder if I can pull up the OwnerRez documentation on, so it might explain it better. So OwnerRez will know, see if I'll show an example of their analytics. Yeah, let me share my screen. So I put Facebook ID in. It will let me see page view on widget pages, so whether they're inside the website or separately hosted. If a quote was accepted, which is considered a checkout page for them. There's payments, or if there's on hosted website pages, anywhere the widget is placed, it technically would track the pixel through OwnerRez. Book Now is the add to cart, lead events if they send an inquiry, initiate checkouts if they actually viewed the quote on the checkout page, and then if they purchased, it should give that event value, that purchase amount, back into my Facebook analytics, so I would know where it came from. So again, all depends on how good the tracking is. So like, if I have tracking turned off on my phone, and I see your ad, and then I click it, and I went all the way through, it would know that a purchase happened, but it wouldn't be able to give the correct attribution to the correct ad because it lost tracking in the process. And so that's kind of the way that it works. So it works on a widget or it works for the full-fledged page as well.
Okay, so if you want to know it all the way down to the final purchase. and
Then
use
that
it,
is in
you
the
have to put
end
it
the
in.
goal.
Okay.
As
I
far as
wasn't
I
listening
know,
before when you said it's only 1 pixel, because I didn't think it mattered. So it does. So you have 1 pixel for all your properties
all the
because
properties,
of going
because
through
of
them,
this. Yeah,
to
because I
follow
want
it
it to
down
be able
to
to track.
purchase.
Yeah,
Okay,
because ideally the goal would be, it's kind of like the principal Bill shared several times, that if I spend $1,000 this month and I got $10,000 in bookings, then I'm going to spend $1,500, $2,000 next month. I should get, in theory, $20,000 in bookings. It should double. Does it actually work that way? No, because that's not, the way it works, especially when it comes to properties, and it's not a physical product. But if I can track it, then I know if I spend $1,000 in advertising, I got $200 in bookings. Ooh, okay, I may not want to do that. I'm losing money already. So that's kind of the hope and the goal. Like I said, I haven't actually seen. I've seen the pixel fire. I've seen bookings initiate, but I haven't seen that this ad made that booking, and that's the amount of return on ad spend I got because of that. I haven't seen it come all the way back through. I
But it's
say
supposed to be there.
it's supposed to be there.
okay.
But I don't know, like I said, if it loses tracking along the way, the pixel would still know, because the pixel knows that either way, whether it tracked through all the way, that it happened. That's what the point of the widget is. But it can't attribute it all the way back because it lost it somewhere along the way. So
So all the ones that you guys are co-hosting and helping with ads, that's all your 1 pixel, like your,
all our pixel. Yeah, everything that's in our owner res has our pixel, and we use our pixel if we're running ads for them, or because everything co-hosting wise is separate. As far as like, they own their own listings, they have their own Verbo accounts, they own all that stuff. But anything inside of our system is in ours. It's our Hospitable, it's our owner res, it's our Facebook ads. It's all that stays within.
so it's your
us.
ads. So if they leave the ads,
Yeah,
but they get their
our
Airbnb
ads.
site.
but they get their listings. They don't have to go
Okay.
create a new account or anything like that. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Chris, I am not on OwnerRez right now. It's a goal of mine to do it this year, mainly because I don't have a direct booking site. Do you think the pixel limitation, like if I'm starting from scratch, I don't have anything right now, is a good enough reason among some of the others, like the limitations on co-hosting with OwnerRez, to consider a different platform?
We are considering a different platform. So we're looking at a few different options just in the way, because of co-hosting. So I'll give you guys some back end of that, and I'm actually going to add some tech stuff into the co-hosting course, because Bill kind of scratched the surface. I need to go much deeper when people start thinking about co-hosting themselves, because I think it is a valuable way to make money without you putting so much risk out there and that kind of stuff. So part of the problem with the way that direct bookings happening in OwnerRez is there's no unified messaging system. So if I get a direct booking on OwnerRez, the emails go out from OwnerRez, but from my email, right? So team@kivavacationrentals.com, that sends the email. But when someone replies to that, it doesn't go to like a unified inbox. It just goes to my email inbox, which is great and all, except if you looked over on my right screen where all my emails are, and I go to the Kiva thing, I've gotten 20 something emails today from OwnerRez that are, this is an alert about a deposit. This is an alert about a deposit. This is a payment that went through. This is a booking that was made. This booking was canceled. That was canceled. This schedule has been changed. So one email from a guest can easily get lost in all of my email inbox. And so we're looking at any of the systems. There's a lot, and that's why we like Hospitable, right? So through Hospitable, I put my direct bookings into Hospitable. So one, all my messaging templates send out correctly. But two, if they reply to me, it's in one thread in Hospitable that I can access from this without being logged into my email, not doing any of that. It just comes through like any Airbnb or Verbo message does. And so we're hoping that if we go to another system, and we're just talking with OwnerRez, and that's kind of a cool difference between of where we've gotten to, is that we're actually able to have conversations with OwnerRez and like, hey, here's the features we really need for your platform to not just do what it does, but go to that next level that we would like it to be able to get to. Because in the end, we need some other stuff in there. of like the unified inbox would be incredible. The way it handles some of the API integration stuff, it needs to be adjusted a little bit. So we're considering it. I don't think the pixel limitations really, because like I said, you can have one pixel. I have basically one pixel everywhere. And I'm able to, on the other side of it, tell it, okay, just this website or just these pages, just this one specific page. So I'm not so worried about that. For me, OwnerRez is much more of the rest of it. I mean, even today we had, this is how easy it is to have something not set. So we have a newer property, one of Bill's properties that is new in OwnerRez. But if you look at on the surface level of like, if you go to a property and the very, very top of a property, it has kind of a quick like security deposit cancellation policy, right? That's not the cancellation policy for the API connections. That's just the cancellation policy for direct bookings. And so when Bill was checking it, when I had him check over before I make a property live, we looked at it. I can actually show you. We looked at it. It's like, oh yeah, cancel receives 50%. Cancel occurs at least 30 days before arrival. No refunds within 30 days of arrival, right? You're like, that's the policy. But that is not the actual policy, because if you go into the channel rules and then you change what the cancellation policy is, then you have to double check and make sure it's actually picks the right policy, and that's what sends over to it. So it's weird stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff in OwnerRez that it's incredibly powerful. Probably one of the most powerful as far as like customizability and what you can have show in certain ways. But on the other side of that, it's not super user friendly. There's a lot of little things that if you don't have the right switch flipped, that something crazy will happen. Or like today, it cost us, someone canceled within 5 days of a booking, and we lost that because the one setting was set wrong inside of OwnerRez itself. But also the websites are meh. So we're looking. Will we change? I have no idea. It's a pain in the butt to move, whatever 15 properties from one platform to another. I don't particularly want to do any of that. But if we're co-hosting right now and we plan to co-host 10 more properties, then is the way I'm doing it now sustainable? Not really. There's too much of me involved in it, and I need to get me out of it for us to be able to scale properly. That's really the end goal. And so the more automation I can put in place where I don't have to touch it, the better we'll be in the long run to be able to keep the whole thing running smoothly, so we don't, lose our minds dealing with stuff. It's already difficult enough dealing with, even today, poor Bill's just had a horrible luck this winter season. It's like power's going over here, pipes have burst over there. It was like -10 in Nashville, which like never happens. And the heat went out in the lodge, which is the only property we manage here. And you're like, nothing here is designed to like stand being that cold. And so very quickly you're like, wow, the guests there, well, what are we going to do? Well, you try and get like whatever solution to them. And our winter's been a mess. So the less I can worry about the technology side, so I can actually focus on making sure the guests have a great stay and focus on the stupid stuff that's bound to happens, then, the better off we are in the long run. There's always going to be stupid stuff. There always is.
Well, hopefully the threat of you guys leaving is enough to make them fix everything.
It's so interesting. Like I said, it's such a different thing to be like, hey, to have that kind of power. And that's why I really want to use it. It's like, your product is incredible. I need it to be like 10% more incredible, and then you'll have like the perfect product out there. But it's just these small things that are just annoying enough to like make me consider not. And that's the trade-off, like, right? You're like, is it worth it for the 10% to then have to go through the effort of moving everything over to somewhere else? Like, I don't know if it's worth that or not right now. But again, if this is something that I don't remember what business book this was from, but I actually think it was so you guys may not know this, but I worked for a church for 6 years. So this is my church background. This is in the church world. When you're growing as a church, you get to a place where you hit these like plateaus. You're like, we're at 50 people, we're at 100 people, we're at 1,000 people, we're at 5,000 people. You're gonna get plateaus along the way, right? But as you grow, you start to build systems. As you build systems, a lot of churches struggle because the reason that they're plateauing isn't because they can't grow further. It's because they've hit the wall of what their system can handle. And so they have to readjust their system to be able to grow even further, right? And the same thing works in a business, that if you don't run your business like you're a multi-million-dollar business, then you can't be a multi-million-dollar business. You're going to hit the wall of the limitations of your systems you've built. And so the same thing works in this. Like if my limitations of the systems is what I've built, then we're only gonna be able to manage 15 properties without it taking too much of our time where it's not worth it anymore. If I can build the systems in place right now that would work for 100 properties, then we're golden, because we may not ever get to 100, but we have the systems in place that would work for us to scale to 100 if we wanted to. And that's kind of it's where we're at right now. We hit a wall with our systems. We either fix the system or have OwnerRez fix the system, or it's time to figure out a way to just make it better, because we can't scale further with the way the systems currently work.
Does OwnerRez have a I don't know what it's called technically, but it's like a product feature forum where people can like submit ideas and rate them? Like I know Stessa has something like that. I wonder, I don't know if there's any value in whatever y'all's agenda is going to be of the features you want to push, like, you know, post them in some sort of forum or
Get some
live
other
or
public
whatever, and
behind
have
it.
people like vote them up, so that it's like you come with your pitch and then here's the evidence, everyone wants this or whatnot.
Yeah, the Facebook group's a powerful place too, of people kind of sharing the good and bad, like anything else. And there's so many weird, unique, quirky things about OwnerRez that it usually takes you experiencing it and someone else out there is like, I've also experienced that weird, quirky thing that you experienced. So that's definitely a great place for it. But also kind of speaking to that, for you guys that are using OwnerRez, if there's something out there that you're like, I wish it could do this, let us know, because we're actively having conversations with like their CTO and their development team. And there's stuff out there that we haven't thought of. We would love to hear what would be incredible for you guys as well, so we can kind of keep passing those things along. Hopefully build out this, you know, the platforms. I don't want to change everything. And you know, they've been incredible partners with it. Like I said, it's literally like having, you know, the most advanced sports car. It is absolutely incredible. But man, you flick the wrong switch, you can wreck your day. But it's good and bad with that. Cool. Anything else?
Thanks for staying up past bedtime.
Oh, thank you guys. 2.5 hours. Holy crap.
Thanks a bunch. That's been helpful.
Yeah, I didn't want to skip on the word in depth. Now you guys know for future. You're warned whenever I say in depth. That's what it means. But recording will be up. I'll probably get it up tomorrow. That way you guys can go back if you want to watch some of it, or need to watch some of it to follow along. As always, if you guys have any questions anytime, you have to wait till, you know, the meetings or whatever. Just, you know, shoot an email. I always tell people to avoid Facebook because I've never logged in as me. But emails, I literally have, this is all email on this window 24/7. So it is the fastest way by far to get a hold of me, not so much Bill. But yeah, if you guys ever need anything, let me know. I'll be happy to hop on a Zoom, take a look at it. And then if you're I almost said Miami, if you're in Orlando, Miami was the last time. If you're in Orlando, I would love to take a look at it. You guys to get some ads up and running. I'd love to take a look at them. And I'm super, not as much as Kenny, but I'm super data nerd. I love to take a look and kind of see how they're going and give you guys some suggestions on how to keep making them better.
All right. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you all.
You guys have a good night.
Have a good night.
Chris.
You guys-
Bye.